There's something unnervingly captivating about an amusement park left to rot. It's a place designed for joy, laughter, and excitement. But when the fun fades, and the gates close for good, what's left behind becomes a graveyard of memories, a stage set for something far more sinister. That's where our story begins. Picture this: a once thriving park, its rides frozen in time, rusting under the weight of abandonment. The cheerful colors of the merry-go-round have long since faded into a ghostly pastel, and the roller coaster tracks sit motionless, creeping like a forgotten skeleton over the overgrown grounds. It's a place that shouldn't be entered, but curiosity has a way of pulling people into places they know they should avoid. That's exactly what happened to our group of unsuspecting adventurers. The leader of the group, Jamie, was a thrill-seeker by nature. His Instagram was filled with pictures of urban exploration, from abandoned factories to crumbling mansions. But nothing had ever intrigued him as much as this: the legendary Landon Park. Rumor had it, the park had closed down decades ago after a series of freak accidents that no one could quite explain. Some said it was cursed. Others claimed the park's owner, Mr. Landon, had made a pact with something darker to keep the park thriving. Whatever the truth was, Jamie couldn't resist the pull. Neither could his friends. The group arrived just as the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the decaying entrance gate. A rusty sign creaked in the wind, the name of the park barely visible under layers of grime. Landon Park, where the fun never ends, it read. But the fun had clearly ended long ago. All that remained was an eerie silence, broken only by the occasional rustle of the wind through the trees. They forced their way through the chained gates, excitement and nervousness dancing in their eyes. The amusement park stretched out before them like a haunted dreamscape. Weeds and vines had taken over the walkways, and shattered glass crunched underfoot as they made their way deeper into the park. But what struck them the most was the feeling. It wasn't just the decay, the absence of life. It was the sense that something was watching them. Jamie felt it first, a chill that crept up his spine and refused to leave. They passed the roller coaster, the track still intact but ominously silent, towering like a relic of a forgotten time. "Come on, guys, let's check out the Ferris wheel," Jamie called, masking his unease with enthusiasm. The others followed, though none of them could shake the creeping feeling that something wasn't quite right. The Ferris wheel loomed ahead, its once vibrant lights long extinguished. Yet, as they approached, a faint flicker caught their eye, just a brief flash, as if one of the bulbs had come to life for a split second. They exchanged glances, but no one said a word. It was too early in the night for fear to take hold, or at least, that's what they told themselves. As they explored further, more strange things began to happen. The merry-go-round, still and lifeless a moment ago, seemed to groan as if the horses were struggling to break free from their poles. The faint sound of distant carnival music began to drift through the air, so soft it was almost imagined. Almost. Jamie and the others stopped near the bumper cars, now covered in dust and grime, the once joyful attraction looking more like a graveyard of metal shells. That's when they heard it, a distant laugh, a child's laugh. It echoed faintly, bouncing off the rusting metal and crumbling buildings. They all froze. "Did you hear that?" Sarah, one of the quieter members of the group, whispered. "Yeah," Jamie replied, his voice steadier than he felt. "It's probably just an echo or something. Sound does weird things in places like this." But even as he said it, he didn't believe it. There was no way sound was just playing tricks on them. That laugh, it sounded too real, too close. As they ventured deeper into the park, the strange occurrences became harder to ignore. The tilt-a-whirl, still stuck in place, suddenly creaked as if it was about to start spinning on its own. Shadows seemed to dart just beyond the edges of their flashlight beams, and the air grew thick with an oppressive sense of dread. That's when they saw the carousel, the centerpiece of Landon Park. It stood eerily still in the center of the grounds. The horses, once vibrant and inviting, now looked more like grotesque figures frozen in terror. The paint had chipped away, leaving the eyes hollow and lifeless. Or so they thought. Jamie approached cautiously, the others trailing behind him. He reached out to touch one of the horses, its once smooth surface now rough and decayed. That's when the horse's head moved. The horse's head moved, ever so slightly. At first, Jamie thought his mind was playing tricks on him, but then he felt it, an undeniable shift. He yanked his hand back, his heart racing. Did you see that?" he asked, voice barely above a whisper. The group stared at the carousel in stunned silence, tension gripping them like a vice. No one wanted to admit what they had just seen. It didn't seem possible. Yet there it was, right in front of them. The carousel horse had moved. Sarah stepped forward, her flashlight trembling in her hand. "It's probably just loose or something," she said, trying to make sense of the impossible. She moved closer, reaching out to inspect the horse. But as her fingers brushed the surface, the carousel groaned. The wooden platform creaked and began to rotate, slowly at first, then faster, as if someone had switched it on. The music followed. The haunting melody of a carousel filled the air, broken and distorted like an old record player struggling to come to life after years of silence. The horses bobbed up and down, their lifeless eyes staring blankly ahead. Yet there was something unmistakably alive about them now. It was as if the carousel had been waiting for them all along, waiting to spring back to life. Jamie stepped back, his breathing shallow. "We need to get out of here," he said, the calm bravado he'd carried into the park quickly crumbling. But leaving wasn't as simple as it seemed. As they turned to retreat, they found their path blocked by the shadows of the park itself. The roller coaster's towering frame, once a symbol of thrill and joy, now loomed like a predator, casting long, dark silhouettes that seemed to stretch and shift as they moved. It was as if the park itself was alive, twisting reality around them, trapping them inside. Their exit wasn't just blocked by physical obstacles. The air felt heavier, thick with an unnatural presence. Sarah, who had been so focused on the carousel, turned and gasped. The Ferris wheel, which had been completely still moments before, was now spinning slowly, each cart rocking gently as it completed its circuit. But there was no one operating it. There was no power, no explanation. "What the hell is happening?" Jason, another member of the group, asked, his voice shaking. "This place it's not right." "No kidding," Jamie muttered under his breath. His heart pounded in his chest, and he felt the weight of fear pressing down on him. This was no ordinary abandoned park. This was something else, something darker. "We need to split up and find another way out," Jamie suggested, though the words felt wrong even as he said them. Every horror movie screamed at him not to suggest such a thing, but in that moment, logic and fear clashed. "We'll cover more ground." Reluctantly, the group agreed. Jamie and Sarah headed toward the old funhouse, while Jason and Emily went in the direction of the bumper cars, hoping to find an opening in the fence or a forgotten gate. As they separated, the air seemed to grow colder, and the shadows grew longer, as if the park was closing in on them. The funhouse stood before Jamie and Sarah, its once bright and colorful facade now cracked and peeling, with grotesque clowns painted on the walls leering down at them. The entrance was partially caved in, but there was just enough space to slip inside. "I don't like this," Sarah whispered. Her voice echoed inside the hollow structure as they stepped through the threshold. The floorboards creaked underfoot, and the air smelled of mold and decay. Dust floated in the beams of their flashlights, and the eerie silence was deafening. Jamie agreed but pressed forward. He wasn't sure what they were looking for, an exit, a clue, a way to understand what was happening. But the deeper they went, the more he felt the creeping dread overtaking him. The mirrors were the worst part. In the center of the funhouse was a hall of mirrors, each one reflecting distorted versions of themselves. But there was something wrong with the reflections. As they moved, the reflections seemed to lag behind, like something was controlling them from the other side. And then, one of the reflections smiled. Sarah screamed, stumbling backward, her flashlight flickering as it hit the ground. Jamie rushed to her side, pulling her away from the mirrors, but when they turned to leave, the exit had vanished. The doorway they had come through was gone, replaced by another mirror. They were surrounded, their own twisted reflections staring back at them with malevolent grins. Meanwhile, Jason and Emily weren't faring any better. As they explored the bumper car arena, the cars began to jolt and move on their own, like marionettes being controlled by invisible strings. Emily was the first to notice the lights. Tiny, Flickering bulbs began to illuminate the arena, casting a sickly glow on the scene. And then, the cars started to move faster, circling around them like predators stalking their prey. "Run!" Jason shouted, but there was nowhere to go. The cars sped up, crashing into one another, yet somehow avoiding them, like they were playing a game. A deadly game. Back in the funhouse, Jamie and Sarah were trapped, the mirrors closing in on them, distorting their reality. Jamie's mind raced. Was this place haunted? Or was something far more sinister at play? Jamie's pulse pounded in his ears as he and Sarah tried to find their way out of the funhouse, but every turn seemed to lead to more confusion. The mirrors, once a playful attraction, had now become their prison. Each reflection seemed to taunt them, not just mimicking their movements, but exaggerating their fear, as if the reflections had a life of their own. I can't do this," Sarah whispered, her voice barely holding together. She reached for Jamie, her hand trembling, but the mirrors around them reflected none of her panic. Instead, their mirrored versions appeared calm, even smiling. Jamie swallowed hard, fighting the overwhelming dread. "We have to stay calm. There's got to be a way out." But deep down, he wasn't so sure. The park felt like it was feeding on their fear, twisting reality around them. The mirrors seemed to warp and ripple as they moved, turning their reflections into grotesque versions of themselves, distorted, elongated, with wide, menacing grins stretching across their faces. Suddenly, Sarah let out a sharp gasp. "Look," she pointed at one of the mirrors. There, standing just behind them in the reflection, was a figure. It was impossible, though. They were alone. They spun around, but the figure wasn't there in the flesh, only in the reflection. A tall, shadowy figure, just standing, watching. "What the hell?" Jamie breathed, stepping back from the mirror. The figure didn't move. It just stared, its face obscured in shadow, but its presence was palpable. Coldness radiated from it, as if it had sucked the warmth out of the room. "Jamie, we need to go," Sarah whimpered. Her voice was barely audible over the beating of his heart. But the problem was they couldn't go. Every exit they tried led them back to more mirrors. They were trapped in the labyrinth, and the shadowy figure wasn't going to let them leave. Outside the funhouse, Jason and Emily's situation was spiraling out of control. The bumper cars continued to race around them, crashing into one another with increasing force. It was no longer a game. It was an attack. The cars were circling them, drawing in closer and closer, like metal wolves preparing to strike. "We gotta find a way out," Emily cried, her eyes wide with terror. The cars seemed to be following some unseen command, moving with purpose. And then, as if responding to her voice, one of the cars lunged toward her. She barely dodged it, stumbling to the side as the vehicle smashed into the barrier where she'd just been standing. Jason grabbed her arm, pulling her toward the edge of the arena. But every time they got close, the cars would cut them off, forcing them back toward the center. "They're toying with us," he shouted, frustration and fear blending into one. The lights around the arena flickered and buzzed, casting eerie shadows that seemed to move independently of the cars. Jason could feel the park closing in on them, like a predator ready to strike. He had thought this would be a simple adventure, a night of urban exploration with a thrill. But now, the thrill had turned to terror, and they were trapped in a nightmare. As the bumper cars drew closer, Jason spotted something. Just beyond the edge of the arena, a small opening in the fence, barely noticeable but there, if you knew where to look. He grabbed Emily's hand and pointed. "There, we have to make a break for it. When the cars pull back, we run." Emily nodded, her face pale, but determination sparked in her eyes. They waited, hearts pounding, watching the cars as they surged and retreated, almost as if they were waiting for the right moment to strike. Then, just as one car careened too far off course, Jason yelled, "Now!" and they sprinted toward the opening. The cars roared to life behind them, engines whirring, as if the park itself was enraged by their attempt to escape. They reached the fence just as the nearest car veered toward them, slamming into the barrier with a deafening crash. But they had made it through. Barely. Jason and Emily collapsed to the ground on the other side of the fence, gasping for breath. But they didn't have time to rest. "We have to find Jamie and Sarah," Emily panted. "We can't leave without them." Meanwhile, Inside the funhouse, Jamie and Sarah were still trapped, the shadowy figure in the mirror growing more menacing with each passing moment. It hadn't moved, but it felt like it was watching them, waiting for something. Jamie had an idea, though it terrified him to act on it. Maybe the mirrors are the key, he said, his voice tight with fear. If we face whatever's in there, if we break the reflection, it might break the spell. Sarah stared at him in disbelief. You want to break the mirror? What if that makes things worse? We don't have many options, Jamie replied, his jaw clenched. He grabbed a broken piece of wood from the floor, raising it toward the nearest mirror, the one where the shadowy figure still stood silently in the reflection. It's either this, or we wait for whatever that thing is to come for us. He swung the wood, smashing it against the glass. The mirror shattered with a deafening crash, shards flying in all directions. For a moment, everything was still. But then, as if the park had been holding its breath, the funhouse seemed to groan, the walls creaking and shifting around them. The shadowy figure was gone. Jamie looked around, his heart pounding in his chest. The mirrors, every single one of them, had cracked, the reflections now distorted beyond recognition. But they had an exit. The door, which had vanished earlier, now stood open in front of them. Let's go, Jamie shouted, grabbing Sarah's hand as they bolted for the exit. As Jamie and Sarah burst through the funhouse doors, they found themselves back in the heart of the abandoned amusement park, the air thick with tension. But something had changed. The park no longer felt empty. It was alive in a way that defied explanation. The rides that had been still and silent were now moving, groaning with old, rusted metal, creaking like they hadn't been touched in decades. Yet there was no one else there. At least, no one they could see. Where are they? Sarah gasped, scanning the dark, twisted shapes of the rides for any sign of Jason and Emily. Jamie grabbed her arm, trying to calm her down, but his own fear was bubbling over. I don't know, he replied, his voice tight with panic. He could feel the weight of the park pressing in on them, as if it had eyes, watching their every move. But we have to find them, and fast. Off in the distance, the roller coaster roared to life, the clattering of its old cars echoing through the night. Jamie's stomach twisted in knots. This wasn't just an abandoned amusement park. It was a trap, a nightmare that had lured them in, and now it was refusing to let them go. The park had come alive, and it wanted them to stay. Suddenly, from behind them, they heard a voice, a faint, desperate cry. Jamie, Sarah, it was Jason. Relief washed over Jamie, but only for a moment. He turned to see Jason and Emily running toward them from the direction of the bumper cars, their faces pale with terror. We need to get out of here now, Jason shouted, his breath coming in ragged gasps. The cars, they're moving on their own. They were trying to... We know, Jamie interrupted. The funhouse, the mirrors, it's all alive. As they reunited, the park around them seemed to tighten its grip. The lights of the Ferris wheel blinked to life, spinning faster and faster, while the roller coaster's cars rattled ominously along the tracks above. The ground beneath their feet vibrated as if the very earth was shifting. We're not alone, Emily whispered, her voice barely audible over the sound of the rides. And she was right. From the shadows, figures began to emerge. They weren't human, not exactly. Their shapes were distorted, elongated, like twisted reflections of people that had been stretched and warped. They wore the ragged remains of carnival worker uniforms, faded red and white stripes, crumbling top hats, but their faces were obscured by darkness. Their eyes, though dark, hollow, soulless eyes, glowed faintly in the dim light. Run, Jamie shouted, pulling Sarah along with him. The group sprinted toward the park's entrance, but the path twisted before their eyes. What had once been a clear, straight shot out was now a maze of rides and obstacles that seemed to shift and move, cutting off every route they tried to take. The figures moved closer, silent but relentless. Their limbs jerked unnaturally as they closed the gap. The sounds of the park, the eerie carousel music, the grinding of metal, grew louder, as if it was all building to a crescendo. There, Jason shouted, pointing toward a small service gate near the edge of the park. That's our way out. But the gate was far, and the twisted figures were closing in fast. The group sprinted as fast as they could, weaving between the hulking rides that loomed over them like monsters in the night. The roller coaster roared above them, and the Ferris wheel creaked ominously as it spun faster than any Ferris wheel should. As they neared the gate, Jamie could hear Sarah's breathing growing ragged, her steps faltering. I can't keep going," she gasped, her legs slowing under the weight of fear and exhaustion. "You have to," Jamie urged, his own heart pounding in his chest. "We're almost there." But as they reached the gate, it slammed shut with a metallic clang, locking them in. Desperation clawed at Jamie's chest. They were trapped. The figures were almost upon them now, their hollow eyes glowing faintly in the darkness. Jamie could feel their cold presence, like death itself breathing down his neck. There was nowhere left to run, nowhere to hide. Then, out of nowhere, the park's PA system crackled to life, its speakers emitting a distorted, haunting voice that echoed through the air. "Welcome, guests, to the final ride of the night. Please stay seated and enjoy your time at the abandoned amusement park." The rides all seemed to move in unison, as if obeying the voice. The ground beneath their feet shifted again, the park warping into something new, something darker. The once familiar sights of the roller coaster, the carousel, the bumper cars, now took on a nightmarish form, twisted and malevolent. The gate was no longer just a fence. It had become a part of the park's design, an integral part of the nightmare that held them. The park itself was alive, feeding off their fear, keeping them locked in its twisted embrace. "There's got to be another way out," Jason muttered, his eyes scanning their surroundings in a frenzy. But deep down, Jamie knew the truth. There was no easy escape. The park had them in its grip, and it wasn't letting go. The figures drew closer, their movements jerky, unnatural. Jamie's mind raced. What could they do? How could they escape something that wasn't even supposed to be alive? Just as the first of the figures reached out toward them, something strange happened. The park lights flickered, once, twice, and then they all went out, plunging the entire area into darkness. For a moment, everything was still. Then, the rides ground to a halt. The Ferris wheel stopped spinning, the roller coaster cars came to a slow, screeching stop, and the eerie music from the carousel faded into silence. The figures, too, were gone, as if they had never existed. The oppressive presence that had surrounded them moments ago lifted, leaving only the night sky and the silent, abandoned amusement park behind. Jamie could barely breathe as he looked around in disbelief. "Well, what just happened?" "I don't know," Sarah whispered, her voice trembling. "But I think it's over." Jason walked slowly to the gate and pushed it. This time it swung open easily. Without a word, the group hurried through the gate, leaving the park behind them, their hearts still racing with the lingering terror of what they had just survived. They stumbled out of the gate and onto the cracked asphalt of the parking lot, their legs shaky, breaths heavy, but the nightmare of the abandoned amusement park now behind them. For a long moment, none of them spoke. The wind whistled softly, rustling the overgrown weeds around the lot, and the distant hum of the highway was the only reminder that the real world still existed beyond the horrors they had just faced. Jamie looked back at the dark silhouette of the park. It sat there, silent, as if nothing had happened, as if it hadn't just tried to devour them whole. The Ferris wheel stood still, its lights dimmed, and the roller coaster tracks were quiet. But even now, in the safety of the open air, he could still feel its presence. The park wasn't just abandoned. It was something more, something alive. "Let's go," Jason said, breaking the silence. Before it changes its mind. They hurried to their car, tossing their gear into the back and piling in without a second thought. As they sped away from the park, leaving the twisted nightmare in the rearview mirror, Sarah let out a shaky breath. "Well, what was that?" "I don't know," Jamie replied, his voice hollow, eyes fixed on the road ahead. But whatever it wasn't just an abandoned amusement park. That place that was alive. They drove in silence for a while, the tension slowly starting to lift as the city lights began to appear in the distance. The familiarity of civilization brought a strange comfort, but the memories of the park lingered, heavy in the air. "Do you think anyone else will go there?" Emily asked quietly from the back seat. Jamie shook his head. "I don't know. I hope not." Jason, always the skeptic, glanced at Jamie in the rearview mirror. Do we even tell anyone? I mean, who would believe us? Jamie didn't answer. The truth was, he wasn't sure what they had experienced could be explained. The park had defied all logic, all reason. It had been like something out of a nightmare, something that shouldn't exist in the real world. But they had survived it. They had escaped. And maybe that was all that mattered. As they pulled into the driveway of Jamie's house, the familiar warmth of home felt surreal after everything that had happened. They got out of the car, their bodies still shaking, adrenaline still pumping, but the safety of the house beckoned them inside. Before they went in, Jamie paused, turning back to the group. Whatever that was, it's not something I ever want to deal with again. Agreed, Jason said with a grim nod. But we need to be smart about this, Jamie added, his voice steady but serious. If anyone else ever goes there, they need to know what they're getting into. We have to warn them. Sarah, standing by his side, looked at him with wide eyes. You mean, post about it? Jamie nodded. We have to. People need to know the truth. That place isn't just abandoned, it's dangerous. Emily looked uncertain, but Jason, always one to document everything, was already pulling out his phone. We'll tell them, but no one's going to believe it unless they see it for themselves. They all exchanged glances, understanding the weight of what they had just lived through. Jamie knew they couldn't erase what had happened, but they could make sure others stayed away from the trap that was the abandoned amusement park. With that, they headed inside. The door clicked shut behind them, sealing them off from the outside world. If you enjoyed the story, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more chilling tales just like this one. Every click helps us continue to bring you the scariest stories from the darkest corners of the world. Don't forget to leave a comment. Have you ever visited an abandoned place that gave you chills? We'd love to hear your experiences. And remember, sometimes the scariest things aren't just in stories. They're out there waiting. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next if you dare. There's a world hidden in the shadows of art auctions, a world where secrets cling to every brushstroke, and where the past refuses to be forgotten. It's in this world that our story begins. Imagine the excitement of discovering something that no one else even knows exists, an artifact that carries history, mystery, and perhaps something darker. Our protagonist, a young art collector, lives for these moments. He's not in it for the fame or the money, no. His passion is for the chase, the thrill of finding something unique, something no one else has. On an unremarkable day, one where the world outside his windows feels distant and irrelevant, he stumbles upon a private invitation, a secret auction, held once a decade, featuring objects that collectors only speak of in whispers. At first glance, the items on display are intriguing, but nothing too out of the ordinary. Old manuscripts, sculptures chipped by time, relics from forgotten eras. But then, he sees it, a painting tucked away in the corner, barely lit by the dim, flickering lights of the room. The frame is gilded, worn by centuries, but still imposing. And the subject of the painting? A woman. Not just any woman, but a figure of haunting beauty. Her eyes, dark and deep, seem to follow him as he steps closer. This isn't just any painting. It's her, the Condesa dos Aljas Sombrios, as the auctioneer whispers. The Condesa's story is one of betrayal, power, and death. Legends claim that after her violent demise centuries ago, her spirit was captured in this very painting. Those who owned it soon met strange, tragic fates. Some disappeared, others went mad. But to our collector, this is just part of the allure. He isn't superstitious. He isn't afraid. After all, it's just a painting, isn't it? The auctioneer, with a knowing smirk, begins the bidding. There are no warnings, no disclaimers. Just a room full of eager collectors who know exactly what they're getting into, or think they do. As the numbers climb, our protagonist feels a compulsion, a pull deeper than curiosity, something primal. He wants this painting. No, he needs it. There's a connection he can't quite explain. It's as if the woman in the painting is beckoning him, silently urging him to bring her home. When the final gavel falls, the painting is his. He feels a surge of triumph, a rush of adrenaline. The painting, once belonging to aristocrats and reclusive nobles, now hangs in his modest apartment, where he can admire it every day. That first night it starts. At first, it's subtle, a flicker of light in the room, the way the shadows fall just so. But the real disturbance comes from the painting. Whenever he glances at it, the Condessa's eyes are locked on him, no matter where he stands. He brushes it off as a trick of the light. After all, it's an old painting, and perhaps the artist had a talent for capturing life in the gaze of his subject. But something feels wrong. The room is too quiet, too still. Every creak of the floorboards echoes through the silence, and there's a sensation that's hard to shake, a feeling of being watched. Not by a person, but by those eyes. He laughs it off, telling himself it's just the excitement of the day catching up with him. But the feeling lingers long after the lights go out, creeping into his dreams, where the Condessa waits for him, silently watching, always watching. By morning, he convinces himself that it was all in his head, but the painting feels different now. There's something more intense about it. The eyes seem sharper, more focused. They seem almost alive. He tells a friend about his new acquisition, bragging about his find. The friend, curious, comes over to see it for himself. But instead of admiration, his friend shudders when he looks at the painting. "Do you feel that?" the friend asks, his voice a little too low. "It's like she's watching me." And that's when the unease begins to grow. Every time someone else enters the room, they notice it too. The eyes, the haunting gaze. It's no longer just a trick of the light. It's as if she's studying them, judging them, deciding something unknown. Our collector laughs it off at first, but deep down, something begins to gnaw at him. The room feels colder, the shadows longer. And every night, when the world outside is asleep, he wakes up to find her staring at him, watching. In the days following the acquisition of the Condessa's painting, life begins to shift subtly but unmistakably. Our collector, once thrilled by his find, now finds himself grappling with an unsettling presence that seems to pervade every corner of his home. It starts with small, almost imperceptible changes. The light in his apartment seems to flicker more frequently. Shadows, once benign, seem to linger longer and dance in strange patterns on the walls. The source of these disturbances, he soon realizes, is not external. It's as if his apartment itself has been altered by the painting's presence. His friends, who had admired the painting at the auction, begin to question their initial reactions. Each visitor now feels a cold chill when they enter the room where the painting hangs. They glance nervously at the Condessa's eyes, which seem to follow them with a disconcerting intensity. Conversations about the painting turn from intrigue to uneasy as the days go by. The collector himself starts to experience odd occurrences. Objects in his apartment, once neatly arranged, seem to shift positions. A book that was left on a table might now be found on the floor. A chair that was pushed in is now slightly askew. These are not dramatic changes, but they are enough to unsettle him. It's as if something or someone is moving things around, subtly rearranging his world. One evening, after a particularly long day, he collapses onto his couch, exhausted. The flickering of the lights, which he had grown used to, now seems more pronounced. He feels the weight of the painting's gaze more intensely. It's as if the eyes of the Condessa are now peering into his soul, scrutinizing his every move, his every thought. Sleep comes fitfully. He dreams of the painting, and in his dreams, the Condessa's eyes are not merely watching. They are pleading, accusing, and then, as the dreams grow darker, they are full of rage. He wakes up drenched in sweat, his heart pounding. The painting, now seemingly more alive, continues its silent vigil. Determined to find a rational explanation, he starts researching the painting's history. The more he delves into it, the more disturbing the details become. Records show that previous owners of the painting have experienced strange phenomena before their untimely deaths or disappearances. Tales of madness, sudden illness, and unexplained accidents surface with alarming frequency. He begins to piece together a pattern. Each owner faced increasing disturbances until their lives were irrevocably altered or ended. Despite his skepticism, the mounting evidence starts to affect his sanity. He becomes increasingly paranoid, jumping at every creak of the floorboards, every unexpected sound. His once orderly life is now dominated by a constant sense of dread. He avoids the room with the painting whenever possible, but even when he's away, he feels the painting's presence, lurking just at the edge of his awareness. The collector's friends, once intrigued by his find, now express their concerns more forcefully. They visit less frequently, and when they do, they avoid the room with the painting. Whispers of old superstitions and local legends surface in their conversations. They start to question whether it's worth it to be near something so unsettling. In an attempt to regain control, the collector decides to consult experts in paranormal phenomena. He reaches out to a local historian who specializes in artifacts with dark histories. The historian is intrigued but cautious. He agrees to visit the apartment, not knowing what to expect. When the historian arrives, he examines the painting closely, his expression growing graver with each passing moment. He confirms the collector's fears. The painting indeed carries a dark history, and its malevolent influence is very real. The historian's words confirm what the collector had hoped was just a figment of his imagination. The collector, now deeply unsettled, realizes that the painting is no longer just a piece of art. It has become a living entity in its own right, its dark presence seeping into every aspect of his life. He knows that the situation is escalating, and he must make a choice: to continue living with the painting and face the ever-increasing disturbances, or to take drastic action to remove it from his life. As the days grow colder and the nights longer, the painting's presence only seems to intensify. The collector is left with a growing sense of urgency. The once exciting acquisition now feels like a curse, and he is haunted by the thought of what might come next. The quest for answers about the cursed painting escalates. The collector, now deeply unsettled, turns to a renowned expert in supernatural artifacts. This specialist, known for his work with cursed objects, agrees to visit the collector's apartment and offer his insights. The visit is both anticipated and dreaded, for the collector knows that this expert's revelation could bring either clarity or deeper terror. Upon entering the apartment, the specialist's demeanor shifts from professional curiosity to visible unease as he approaches the painting. His examination is thorough. He studies the brushwork, the pigments, and the frame, each detail holding a piece of the puzzle. The specialist's findings are unsettling. The painting is not only old, but also imbued with an undeniable supernatural presence. The specialist recounts the legend of the Condesa dos Ojos Sombrios. The Condesa, once a powerful and influential figure, was betrayed by those closest to her. In her final moments, she vowed to exact vengeance on those who wronged her and bound her soul to the painting. The curse was designed to torment and ultimately destroy anyone who possessed it. The more the painting is studied, the more its malevolent power is revealed. The specialist explains that such objects are known for their capacity to inflict psychological and physical harm on their owners. With a new sense of dread, the collector delves into the history of the painting, piecing together fragmented stories from previous owners. Each account describes a steady decline into paranoia, madness, and often death. The pattern is clear. The painting brings with it a cycle of despair and destruction. The collector realizes that he is not merely dealing with an eerie piece of art, but a tangible force with a dark will. The collector's attempts to escape the painting's influence become more desperate. He starts to avoid the room where it hangs, spending his time in other parts of the apartment. But the painting's curse doesn't respect boundaries. It manifests itself in disturbing ways. Whispers in the night, fleeting shadows, and inexplicable chills that seem to follow him wherever he goes. His daily life deteriorates into a series of unsettling events, all connected to the painting. Sleep becomes increasingly elusive. The collector's nightmares are vivid and disturbing. He dreams of the Condesa reaching out from the painting, her eyes burning with a malevolent fire. These dreams are not merely frightening, they are hauntingly real. He wakes up every night, drenched in sweat, with a sense of impending doom that lingers throughout the day. In a bid to confront his fears, the collector decides to hold a small gathering with friends to discuss the painting. He hopes that sharing his experiences might provide some relief. However, the gathering only exacerbates the tension. His friends are visibly uncomfortable, their conversations quickly turning to anxious whispers as they glance nervously at the painting. One friend even claims to have seen the Condessa move within the frame, her eyes following him with an unsettling intensity. As the collector grapples with the mounting evidence of the curse, he decides to seek out historical records and legends about the Condessa. The more he uncovers, the clearer it becomes that this is not just a story. It's a reality that has ensnared many before him. Historical accounts and local folklore paint a grim picture of the painting's legacy, each story adding a layer of terror to the collector's growing paranoia. Determined to break free from the curse, the collector explores various options. He considers destroying the painting, but the specialist's warning about the potential release of the Condessa's spirit makes him hesitate. He explores alternative methods, such as rituals or protective charms, hoping to neutralize the painting's influence without provoking its wrath. His efforts, however, seem to have little effect. The painting's power remains unyielding, its presence growing more oppressive by the day. The collector's mental and emotional state deteriorates as the curse takes its toll. His once orderly life is now consumed by the painting's malevolent influence. He becomes isolated, withdrawn, and obsessed with finding a solution to his torment. In the midst of this chaos, the collector receives a cryptic message from an anonymous source. The message hints at a hidden ritual that might have the power to break the curse. The collector, desperate for any chance of relief, decides to investigate further. He hopes that this ritual, if it truly exists, could be his last chance to free himself from the Condessa's malevolent grip. The collector's determination to end the curse intensifies. The cryptic message he received spoke of a ritual, one shrouded in mystery and peril. This ritual, designed to imprison the Condessa's spirit and nullify the painting's curse, represents his last hope. As he prepares for this final confrontation, the sense of urgency is palpable. Every day spent with the painting is a day closer to madness. Armed with the fragmentary details of the ritual, the collector meticulously prepares for the procedure. The apartment, once a place of comfort, now feels like a stage set for an impending battle. Every corner is filled with an unsettling silence, as if the walls themselves are holding their breath. The collector arranges the items required for the ritual: ancient texts, candles, and various arcane symbols. Each element is crucial, and every misstep could result in disaster. The night of the ritual arrives, and with it comes an oppressive sense of foreboding. The collector waits until midnight, the witching hour, believing it to be the most potent time for supernatural activities. He sets up the ceremonial space, ensuring that the painting is prominently displayed. The Condessa's eyes, seemingly more alive than ever, seem to scrutinize every movement, every breath. The ritual begins. As the collector recites the incantations, the atmosphere thickens with a palpable tension. The candles flicker violently, and a cold draft sweeps through the room, causing the flames to dance erratically. Shadows on the walls elongate and twist, creating grotesque shapes that seem to reach out towards him. The Condessa's gaze feels like a physical weight pressing down on him, her presence growing more intense with each word of the incantation. The collector's voice wavers, but he presses on, driven by the desperate need to break free from the curse. He reaches the critical moment of the ritual, the point where he must confront the Condessa's spirit directly. The air grows colder, and a spectral figure begins to materialize from the painting. The Condessa, her ghostly form ethereal and menacing, emerges, her eyes blazing with fury. The confrontation is intense. The Condessa's spirit hovers in the room, her presence overwhelming. The collector must face his deepest fears as he continues the ritual. Every step he takes feels like a step closer to the brink of madness. The Condessa's form flickers between the painting and the physical world, her gaze piercing and accusatory. As the ritual reaches its climax, the collector feels the full force of the Condessa's wrath. The room is filled with a cacophony of sounds, screams, whispers, and the sound of something scraping against the walls. The painting seems to come alive, its frame warping and distorting. The air crackles with an electric charge, and the temperature drops dramatically. With a final, desperate surge of energy, the collector completes the ritual. The room is engulfed in a blinding light, and the Condessa's form convulses violently. The force of the ritual is so powerful that it nearly overwhelms him. As the light fades, the collector is left gasping for breath, the room eerily silent once more. The painting remains in its place, but its once vibrant colors are now muted. The eyes of the Condessa, though still present, seem less alive, less intense. The collector feels a profound sense of exhaustion and relief. The immediate danger appears to have passed, but the cost of the confrontation is apparent in his weary expression. He surveys the room, noting the aftermath of the ritual. The candles are burned down to stubs, and the arcane symbols are scorched. The once oppressive atmosphere has lifted, but the collector knows that the painting's curse may not be entirely vanquished. There's a lingering sense that the Condessa's spirit is still watching, albeit from a distance. The collector's thoughts are a whirlwind of relief, uncertainty, and fear. The ritual may have subdued the Condessa, but the experience has left him profoundly changed. He contemplates the future, knowing that the painting's curse has left an indelible mark on his life. The aftermath of the ritual leaves the collector in a state of uneasy calm. The room, once the epicenter of supernatural turmoil, now feels oddly serene. The oppressive aura that had cloaked the space is lifted, and the Condessa's eyes, while still present, no longer exert the same malevolent force. However, the collector remains vigilant, knowing that the painting's curse may not be entirely gone. As the days pass, the collector begins to reclaim a semblance of normalcy. The disturbing events that once dominated his life have become less frequent, and the oppressive chill that pervaded his apartment has dissipated. He cautiously resumes his daily activities, though the presence of the painting serves as a constant reminder of his harrowing ordeal. Reflecting on the experience, the collector recognizes the profound impact it has had on his life. The ordeal with the cursed painting has taught him valuable lessons about the dangers that can lie hidden in seemingly innocuous objects. The painting, now subdued, stands as a symbol of both the power of the supernatural and the resilience required to confront it. The collector decides to share his story, not just as a personal account, but as a cautionary tale for others. He hopes that his experience will serve as a warning to anyone who might encounter similar cursed artifacts. His story underscores the importance of respecting the unknown and remaining cautious when dealing with items that carry a dark history. As he wraps up his account, the collector emphasizes the lasting impact of his encounter with the Condessa's painting. While the immediate threat has subsided, the lessons learned remain. He invites viewers to reflect on their own experiences with the supernatural and to stay aware of the potential risks associated with cursed objects. For more stories that delve into the mysteries of the supernatural and the unexplained, make sure to subscribe to the channel. By subscribing, you'll stay updated with our latest videos exploring the boundaries of the unknown. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to sharing more intriguing tales with you. In the tranquil embrace of a village shrouded in mystery, Emma's arrival marked the beginning of an unsettling chapter. Freshly relocated from the bustling city, she sought refuge in the serenity of a quaint home nestled at the edge of this seemingly idyllic place. Yet, beneath the surface of its picturesque charm lay whispers of an ancient enigma, an enigma that would soon entangle Emma in a web of darkness. The village, with its cobblestone streets and charming facades, seemed to promise a peaceful existence. But from the moment Emma set foot in her new abode, the village's silence spoke volumes. The locals, draped in their own secrets, greeted her with wary glances and half-formed smiles. It was as if they knew something she didn't, a silent acknowledgement of an unspeakable truth. While Emma unpacked her belongings, her attention was drawn to a scruffy black cat huddled against the front steps of her new home. Its eyes, glowing with an unsettling intensity, locked onto hers. The cat's presence felt both oddly familiar and disconcertingly out of place. With its matted fur and unkempt appearance, the cat seemed to embody the very essence of the village's hidden secrets. Ignoring the unease of the villagers and their cryptic warnings, Emma's curiosity won over her apprehension. She took the cat in, naming it Shadow, intrigued by its mysterious and almost hypnotic gaze. Little did she know, this seemingly innocuous act would be the catalyst for a series of chilling events that would unravel the very fabric of her reality. As night fell, Emma settled into her new home with Shadow by her side. The first night was peaceful, or so it seemed. Yet, as the moon cast long shadows across the rooms, an unsettling noise echoed through the empty house. Emma found herself awake, the sound of distant whispers mingling with the soft purring of Shadow. The cat's eyes, reflecting the dim light, seemed to follow her every movement, adding a layer of discomfort to the otherwise serene night. Emma's decision to adopt Shadow, coupled with the village's eerie reception, set the stage for an unsettling journey. What lay ahead would challenge her perception of reality and force her to confront a darkness far deeper than she could have ever imagined. As the days passed, Emma's new life in the village seemed to settle into a rhythm, but an undercurrent of unease began to stir. The charming facade of her home started to reveal subtle hints of something amiss. The once comforting quiet of her new abode now felt heavy with an inexplicable tension, and Shadow, the black cat, seemed to be at the center of it all. It began with the small, almost imperceptible disturbances. Objects that she was sure she had placed in one spot would inexplicably end up in another. Emma brushed it off as forgetfulness, until the occurrences became too frequent to ignore. A book that had been left on a table would mysteriously appear on the floor, and a vase that had been set carefully on a shelf would suddenly be shattered. Each incident was minor on its own, but together they created an atmosphere of mounting anxiety. Shadow's behavior was equally disconcerting. The cat, once aloof but passive, had developed a peculiar fixation on certain corners of the house. It would stare into the darkness with a profound intensity, as if watching something unseen. Emma noticed its sudden bursts of aggression, particularly when she tried to move it from these spots. Shadow's erratic behavior only added to the growing sense of dread that seemed to seep into the very walls of her home. Curiosity led Emma to engage with the villagers about the history of her house and the odd occurrences she was experiencing. The response was a mix of hushed whispers and veiled warnings. She learned of local legends about curses associated with black cats, tales of misfortune, and strange happenings that were almost too consistent to be mere coincidence. The villagers spoke in veiled terms, suggesting that black cats, especially those with mysterious pasts, were omens of doom. Emma, driven by both fear and determination, began her own investigation. She dug into the village's history and discovered stories about an ancient curse tied to the very house she now occupied. The legend spoke of a previous resident who had been cursed by a vengeful spirit linked to a black cat. As Emma pieced together the fragments of this unsettling past, she realized that the stories from the villagers might not be just folklore, but a chilling reflection of her own reality. The tension in Emma's home escalated as the supernatural elements grew more pronounced. Unexplained cold spots appeared in different rooms, and whispers that seemed to come from nowhere filled the quiet moments of her day. The connection between Shadow's disturbing behavior and the eerie phenomena in her home became undeniable. Emma's initial curiosity had transformed into a gripping sense of fear and urgency. In her quest to understand what was happening, Emma became increasingly isolated, her interactions with the villagers strained by her relentless pursuit of answers. The once charming village now felt like a maze of dark secrets, each turn revealing more about the malevolent presence that seemed to haunt her every step. As Emma delved deeper into the village's ominous history, she realized that Shadow was more than just a pet. It was a link to something far darker. The investigation into the curse was becoming more personal and urgent, as the boundary between myth and reality blurred, and Emma found herself drawn into the heart of a mystery that threatened her very existence. As Emma delved further into the unsettling history of her home and the village, she discovered that the darkness lurking within wasn't merely a product of her imagination. The shadows that seemed to follow her every step were not just figments of a haunted mind, but threads of a malevolent legacy that had long been buried. Determined to uncover the truth, Emma threw herself into researching the village archives and historical records. Each document she unearthed revealed more about the chilling past of her home and its previous inhabitants. The records detailed a history of misfortune and supernatural occurrences that spanned centuries. The stories centered on a cursed family who had once lived in the house, a family whose fate was intertwined with the very essence of Shadow, the black cat. The tale of the cursed family unfolded with a series of tragic events. It began with an ancestral pact gone awry, a vengeful spirit bound to a black cat, seeking retribution for a wrong done in life. The family's misfortunes were marked by disappearances, unexplained deaths, and whispers of dark rituals performed in the secrecy of the night. The more Emma read, the more she was convinced that Shadow was no ordinary cat, but a vessel for an ancient curse. Shadow's behavior became increasingly disturbing. The cat, once a mere observer of strange happenings, now played an active role in the terror that gripped Emma's home. It would lash out unpredictably, and its eyes seemed to glow with an unnatural light, especially during the dead of night. Emma began to experience vivid, haunting dreams, visions of the cursed family and their grim fate, replayed in a nightmarish loop. The appearance of a mysterious stranger added another layer of intrigue to the unfolding drama. Claiming to be an expert on curses and supernatural phenomena, the stranger approached Emma with cryptic warnings and cryptic advice. His presence was both a beacon of hope and a source of further confusion, as his motives remained unclear and his knowledge of the curse seemed both profound and ominous. Emma's search led her to a hidden journal, tucked away in the archives, detailing ancient rituals and the nature of the curse that plagued her home. The journal described how the malevolent spirit had bound itself to the cat, using it as a conduit to enact its revenge. It became evident that breaking the curse would require more than just understanding. It would demand a confrontation with the very essence of the evil that had seeped into her life. As the days turned into nights filled with dread, Emma felt the weight of the curse growing stronger. The boundaries between her waking life and her nightmares began to blur, each encounter with Shadow amplifying the malevolent energy that seemed to pulse through her home. Emma's isolation deepened, both from the villagers who viewed her with increasing suspicion and from the once safe confines of her own home, now transformed into a battleground of supernatural forces. The revelation of the curse's true nature cast a long, dark shadow over Emma's life. As she pieced together the grim history and the unsettling behavior of Shadow, she realized that the only way to reclaim her life was to confront the darkness head-on. The stakes were higher than ever, and the path forward was fraught with peril. The stage was set for a confrontation that would determine the fate of Emma, Shadow, and the malevolent spirit that had woven itself into the very fabric of her life. With the weight of the curse pressing down on her, Emma knew that facing the darkness was the only way to reclaim her home and her sanity. The storm that brewed outside mirrored the turmoil within Emma's heart as she prepared for the final ritual. Lightning illuminated the night sky, casting flickering shadows across her home, while the wind howled like a chorus of angry spirits. Emma gathered the items prescribed in the ancient journal, a collection of talismans, herbs, and symbols, each one a key to unlocking the curse's grip on Shadow. As she began the ritual, the air thickened with an oppressive energy. The atmosphere inside the house felt charged, as if the very walls were closing in. Shadow, now a vessel for the vengeful spirit, reacted with violent agitation. The cat's eyes glowed with a fierce, otherworldly light, and it seemed to writhe and contort as the spirit's influence surged through it. The ritual demanded Emma's full concentration and resolve. She chanted the incantations with a trembling voice, the ancient words resonating with power. The symbol she had drawn on the floor began to glow, and the air grew colder, as if the room itself was resisting the spell's power. Shadow's transformation was both horrifying and mesmerizing. The cat's form shifted, revealing glimpses of the malevolent entity within. The confrontation reached its zenith as the spirit, now fully manifested, confronted Emma with a fury that seemed to shake the very foundation of her home. The spirit's visage was a grotesque blend of shadow and malice, its presence overwhelming and suffocating. Emma, driven by a combination of fear and determination, stood her ground. The battle was not just a physical struggle, but a war of wills, as Emma fought to maintain control over her own mind and the ritual's power. In the midst of the chaos, the spirit revealed its tragic past, a story of betrayal, loss, and a cursed existence that had endured for centuries. The revelation added a layer of emotional complexity to the confrontation, as Emma realized that the spirit's rage was rooted in a profound sense of injustice and sorrow. The spirit's lament echoed through the storm, and Emma's heart wavered, torn between empathy and the need to break the curse. With a final, desperate surge of energy, Emma completed the ritual. The air crackled with intensity, and the malevolent spirit's form began to disintegrate, dissolving into the darkness from which it had emerged. Shadow, freed from the spirit's grasp, collapsed to the ground, its body returning to its once innocent state. The storm outside abated, and a profound silence fell over the house. Emma, exhausted but resolute, felt a weight lift from her shoulders. The curse had been broken, and the spirit's reign of terror had ended. Yet, as the first light of dawn crept through the windows, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that the darkness had left its mark, lingering in the corners of her mind and her home. The confrontation had been a battle of epic proportions, and its resolution marked the beginning of a new chapter for Emma. But the echoes of the spirit's anguish and the remnants of its curse left a lingering sense of unease, a reminder that some shadows never fully disappear. As the first light of dawn gently warmed Emma's home, the remnants of the curse seemed to dissipate with the night storm. The oppressive atmosphere that had once hung over the house was replaced by a tentative calm, and the air felt lighter, almost as if it had been purified by the intense struggle that had taken place. With Shadow now free from the malevolent spirit's grasp, Emma began to rebuild her sense of normalcy. The cat, once a symbol of dread, had returned to its more familiar self, though the scars of its dark past lingered in its eyes. Emma's heart, though heavy with the memories of the past weeks, found solace in the gradual return to a peaceful routine. Her once haunted home began to feel like a sanctuary once more. Emma's interactions with the villagers also began to heal. The isolation and suspicion that had clouded her life were slowly replaced by understanding and a sense of community. The villagers, who had once been distant and wary, now offered their support and gratitude for lifting the curse that had cast a shadow over their lives for so long. Emma's home, and the village itself, seemed to embrace a newfound sense of peace. Yet, as Emma looked back on her ordeal, she couldn't completely shake the feeling that the curse's darkness had left an indelible mark on her life. The village's secrets and the spirit's anguished revelations had etched themselves into her memories, a reminder that some shadows, no matter how deeply they are confronted, never fully disappear. In the quiet moments of reflection, Emma found herself contemplating the future. The trials she had faced had changed her, deepened her understanding of both fear and courage. As she settled into her new life, she resolved to share her story, hoping to shed light on the darkness she had endured and to help others who might find themselves grappling with their own shadows. And now, dear viewers, as we close this chapter of the Black Cat's Curse, we invite you to be a part of our journey. If this story has captivated you, if the mystery and suspense have kept you on the edge of your seat, then subscribe to our channel for more thrilling tales that delve into the unknown. Don't forget to like this video and leave your comments. Share your thoughts and experiences with us. Your engagement helps us continue to bring you stories that stir the imagination and evoke the spine-chilling thrill of the supernatural. Thank you for joining us on this haunting journey. Until next time, remember, the shadows may be banished, but the stories linger, waiting to be told. The Grand Hotel stands as a relic of old-world elegance, nestled on a forgotten corner of the city. Its grandeur is evident from the moment you step through its doors. Crystal chandeliers, polished wooden furniture, and a lobby whispering tales of a bygone era. Yet, there is an undercurrent of mystery that permeates the air, far beyond what is captured in glossy brochures or elaborate descriptions. As our protagonist arrives at the Grand Hotel, the warm and seemingly sincere welcome offers an almost surreal comfort. The reception is impeccable, the service exceptional, and despite the hotel's age, there is a charm that feels both inviting and timeless. But behind this veneer of luxury lies a detail that remains shrouded in secrecy. Room 313. Unlike the other rooms, 313 exudes an unsettling aura. At first glance, it may seem like just another room with heavy curtains and an ornate bed. However, a closer inspection reveals a sense of unease that hangs in the air. The Grand Hotel harbors a secret within these walls, and room 313 is the epicenter of that mystery. The traveler, eager for a tranquil escape, is given the key to room 313 by a receptionist who appears both courteous and hesitant. There's a fleeting moment when the receptionist mentions that some rooms are more special than others, and while it seems like a throwaway comment, a disquieting chill settles over the traveler. Upon entering room 313, the traveler is greeted by an environment that feels both alluring and disquieting. The antique furnishings, though meticulously maintained, give off an unsettling impression. The room is arranged with an almost obsessive attention to detail, but there's something off. A chair slightly out of place, a mirror that reflects an oddly distorted view. As night falls, the traveler attempts to unwind, but the feeling of discomfort persists. Subtle noises, creaks in the old wood, faint whispers, interrupt the silence. Despite efforts to dismiss these disturbances, the traveler's unease grows. An old pamphlet discovered in a drawer details a tragic incident linked to the room, but the traveler tries not to dwell on it. The initial signs of discomfort are minor but persistent. The traveler's attempts to relax are thwarted by an increasing sense of dread. The night promises to be anything but ordinary as the traveler's curiosity about room 313 intensifies, setting the stage for an unforgettable night. The next morning, the traveler descends to the hotel's elegant dining room for breakfast, hoping that the day will bring a reprieve from the previous night's unease. The dining room is as picturesque as the rest of the hotel, with its ornate decor and meticulously set tables. However, the conversations among other guests are punctuated by hushed, mysterious exchanges about room 313. Seated at a table near the window, the traveler overhears snippets of conversation that mention strange occurrences and unsettling experiences in the very room he stayed in. The casual nature of these remarks contrasts sharply with the unsettling nature of the stories, creating an atmosphere of eerie normalcy. Determined to uncover the truth, the traveler decides to delve into the history of room 313. He visits the hotel's library, a cozy yet foreboding space lined with old books and records. The library's air is thick with dust and the scent of aged paper, adding to the sense of immersion in the past. He begins his search by exploring the archives, which are filled with old guest registers and historical documents. As he sifts through the yellowed pages, he comes across references to room 313 that are both intriguing and disturbing. He finds records of previous guests who reported strange phenomena, unexplained noises, objects moving on their own, and feelings of being watched. These accounts are corroborated by staff notes that describe the room as being particularly prone to unusual activity. The traveler's investigation takes a new turn when he encounters an elderly hotel staff member who has worked there for decades. This staff member, with a weathered face and a voice that seems to carry the weight of countless untold stories, shares first-hand accounts of the hotel's troubled past. He speaks in a low, conspiratorial tone, confirming the rumors about room 313 and hinting at darker secrets that have been kept from the public. Armed with this new information, the traveler returns to room 313, now more determined than ever to uncover the truth. He brings with him a variety of tools, recorders, cameras, and even a flashlight, prepared for a night of serious investigation. The room, which seemed merely uncomfortable before, now feels like a pressure cooker of suspense, each shadow and creak amplifying the sense of foreboding. As the sun sets, the traveler sets up his equipment and begins his vigil. The room's atmosphere grows increasingly oppressive as the light fades, casting long, eerie shadows on the walls. He reviews the evidence captured by his devices, but finds that the recorded sounds are almost imperceptible, whispers that are barely audible and fleeting glimpses on camera that could be dismissed as tricks of the light. Despite the inconclusive results, the traveler remains resolute. The night wears on with a growing sense of tension as the room seems to come alive with its own rhythms. Every sound, every movement becomes a potential clue, and the traveler's senses are on high alert. The hours stretch into the early morning, and the traveler feels a mix of frustration and anticipation. The unease that began with subtle hints has escalated into a full-blown confrontation with the unknown. His curiosity drives him to push through his growing fear, knowing that the truth about room 313 is just within reach. With dawn approaching, the traveler reflects on his findings. The room's unsettling nature has proven to be more than just a figment of imagination. The evidence he has gathered, though not definitive, aligns with the accounts he has heard. The mystery of room 313 is deepening, and the traveler is more determined than ever to uncover what lies at its core. The night is upon us, and room 313, with its antique allure and unnerving aura, has transformed into the epicenter of a paranormal investigation. The traveler's resolve is unshaken as he sets up his equipment once again, ready to delve deeper into the mysteries that have haunted this room. As darkness envelopes the hotel, the once charming room now feels like a labyrinth of shadows and whispers. The traveler starts his night with methodical precision, deploying various devices designed to capture evidence of paranormal activity. He places infrared cameras in strategic locations, ensuring that every angle of the room is covered. Audio recorders are set up to pick up even the faintest sounds that might escape the human ear. Armed with a flashlight and a notebook, he prepares for a long and unsettling vigil. As the clock ticks closer to midnight, the atmosphere in room 313 grows palpably tense. The traveler's senses are on high alert, and every creak of the old building and rustle of the wind outside feels amplified. The silence is occasionally broken by soft, inexplicable noises, distant thumps, the faint sound of something shifting, or the unsettling sensation of being watched. Around midnight, the first signs of activity begin to manifest. The infrared cameras catch fleeting, shadowy movements that defy logical explanation. The traveler reviews the footage in real time, noticing what seems to be faint, amorphous shapes flitting across the screen. These images are too brief and indistinct to be conclusive, but they add to the growing sense of unease. The audio recorders capture an array of disconcerting sounds, whispers that are just below the threshold of comprehension, and a persistent, low-frequency hum that seems to vibrate through the room. The traveler strains to make out the words in the recordings, but they remain elusive, shrouded in static and distortion. In a bid to provoke a response, the traveler uses an electronic voice phenomenon, EVP, device, asking questions into the void. He queries the presence about its origins, its grievances, and what it wants. The device occasionally crackles to life with distorted voices that seem to respond, though their messages are fragmented and unclear. As the night progresses, the room's activity intensifies. The traveler's equipment picks up more pronounced disturbances, objects shifting on their own, the inexplicable feeling of cold spots in certain areas of the room, and a growing sense of oppression. The traveler feels a chill as the temperature drops noticeably, his breath visible in the frigid air. The highlight of the night occurs when a sudden and violent disturbance shakes the room. A drawer flies open with a loud bang, sending papers and objects scattering across the floor. The traveler's heart races as he scrambles to capture the event on camera, but the footage reveals nothing out of the ordinary, just the unsettling image of the room's contents strewn about. The intensity of the paranormal activity reaches a peak as the traveler experiences an encounter that defies explanation. He perceives a shadowy figure standing at the edge of his vision, an elusive presence that seems to move just beyond the reach of the light. The figure remains indistinct, but its impact is palpable, an overwhelming sense of dread and the feeling of being watched intently. As the night wears on, exhaustion sets in, but the traveler's determination remains unbroken. The evidence gathered is compelling, if not entirely conclusive. The experiences of the night paint a vivid picture of room 313 as a nexus of unexplained phenomena, a place where the boundary between the known and the unknown blurs. By the early hours of the morning, the traveler reviews the collected data with a mixture of relief and frustration. While the evidence supports the accounts of paranormal activity, it remains ambiguous and open to interpretation. The night has provided a deeper understanding of room 313's unsettling nature, but the full truth remains just out of reach. As dawn approaches, the traveler prepares to conclude his investigation. The experiences of the night have left an indelible mark, reinforcing the idea that room 313 is far more than just a room in an old hotel. It is a conduit to the unknown, a place where the echoes of the past linger in the shadows. The night deepens, and room 313 becomes the epicenter of a crescendo of supernatural intensity. The traveler, now well into his investigation, feels the palpable weight of the room's dark history pressing down on him. Every shadow, every creak of the floorboards, seems to whisper secrets that have long been buried. The atmosphere is thick with anticipation, as if the room itself is bracing for something momentous. The evidence gathered so far has been intriguing, but inconclusive. The fleeting shadows on the infrared cameras, the fragmented whispers on the audio recordings, and the chilling temperature fluctuations have all contributed to an atmosphere of suspense. But now, as the clock inches toward the witching hour, something shifts. The room seems to come alive with a restless energy, and the traveler senses that the climax of the night is approaching. Around 2 a.m., the disturbances escalate dramatically. The traveler's electronic voice phenomenon, EVP, device crackles with intense, distorted voices that seem to rise in urgency. The whispers, previously faint and fragmented, now come through clearly, voices speaking in hushed, hurried tones, as though trying to convey something of great importance. The traveler strains to understand the messages, feeling a mix of fear and excitement. The room's temperature drops sharply, causing the traveler's breath to become visible. Cold spots form in various locations, their presence unmistakable and chilling. The oppressive atmosphere is almost unbearable, as if the room itself is exuding an aura of malevolent intent. The traveler's heartbeat quickens, the sense of dread escalating with each passing minute. Suddenly, the most dramatic event of the night occurs. A series of violent raps echo through the room, louder and more forceful than anything previously experienced. The traveler's equipment is set up to capture every sound, and the clamor reverberates through the room, shaking the walls and sending a shiver down his spine. The noise is followed by an unsettling silence, the kind that makes the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. In the midst of this cacophony, the traveler catches sight of something that defies explanation. A dark, shadowy figure materializes in the corner of the room, its form shifting and morphing as if struggling to maintain coherence. The figure moves with an otherworldly grace, gliding silently across the floor. The traveler's camera records the apparition, but the footage is distorted, capturing only fleeting glimpses of the figure's movement. The room seems to respond to the presence, its temperature plummeting further, and the air growing thick with an almost tangible sense of dread. The traveler feels an overwhelming pressure, as if the walls are closing in. He attempts to communicate with the figure, asking questions into the void, but the responses are cryptic and fragmented, offering little clarity. The figure's presence becomes more pronounced, and the traveler experiences a sensation of being drawn towards it. The room's atmosphere becomes electric, charged with a tension that is both exhilarating and terrifying. The traveler feels a powerful force tugging at him, as if the room itself is reaching out, urging him to uncover its secrets. As the clock nears 4 a.m., the figure suddenly vanishes, leaving behind an eerie calm. The traveler is left alone in the room, the oppressive atmosphere giving way to a profound silence. The sudden quiet is disorienting, and the traveler is left to process the events of the night. The room's unsettling energy lingers, a haunting reminder of the encounter. The climax of the night has provided the traveler with a deeper understanding of room 313's dark history. The evidence captured, the shadowy figure, the urgent whispers, the dramatic disturbances, paints a vivid picture of a room haunted by forces beyond comprehension. The experience has been both terrifying and illuminating, offering a glimpse into a world where the boundary between the living and the dead is thin and fragile. As the first light of dawn breaks through the windows, the traveler prepares to leave room 313, his mind reeling from the intensity of the night. The room, now quiet and still, feels like a different place, a temporary respite from the supernatural chaos that unfolded within its walls. As dawn's first light spills into room 313, the tranquility of the morning contrasts sharply with the chaos of the previous night. The traveler, now weary but profoundly impacted by the experiences, takes one last look around the room. The remnants of the night's disturbances, a scattered drawer, cold spots, and lingering shadows, remain as eerie reminders of the supernatural events that unfolded. The investigations and encounters have left an indelible mark. The shadowy figure, the urgent whispers, and the chilling temperature drops all point to something beyond the ordinary. Room 313 has proven itself to be a nexus of paranormal activity, a place where the boundaries between the known and the unknown dissolve into a realm of haunting mystery. The traveler reflects on the night's findings, understanding that while some answers remain elusive, the experience has illuminated the enigmatic nature of Room 313. The evidence collected, though inconclusive in parts, confirms that this room holds secrets that transcend conventional explanations. The unsettling atmosphere and the dramatic occurrences are a testament to the room's dark history and its place in the realm of the unexplained. As the traveler prepares to check out, there's a profound sense of closure mixed with an ongoing sense of wonder. The Grand Hotel, with its storied past and the enigmatic Room 313, has offered a glimpse into a world where the supernatural and the real intersect. The traveler leaves with a renewed appreciation for the mysteries that lie hidden beneath the surface of everyday life. But the journey doesn't end here. The traveler's experience in Room 313 is a reminder of the countless stories and mysteries that await discovery. Each room, each location, has its own tale to tell, and Room 313 is just one chapter in a larger narrative of the unknown. For those intrigued by the mysteries of Room 313 and the supernatural world beyond, there's much more to explore. The Grand Hotel's haunted room is a testament to the rich tapestry of eerie tales and unsettling phenomena that populate our world. Whether you're a seasoned investigator or simply fascinated by the unknown, there's always more to uncover. If you enjoyed this exploration into the haunted Room 313 and want to delve deeper into the world of paranormal mysteries, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and join our growing community. Your support helps us bring more thrilling stories and investigations right to your screen. And if you found this video captivating, give it a thumbs up to let us know. Your adventure into the unknown doesn't have to end here. Stay tuned for more chilling tales, spine-tingling investigations, and captivating explorations of the supernatural. Together, we'll continue to uncover the secrets that lie just beyond the veil. Thank you for watching, and remember, the world is full of mysteries waiting to be discovered. Until next time, keep your curiosity alive and your courage steadfast. In a forgotten corner of the world, where the mists of time have cloaked the land in shadows, lies a village that seems almost suspended in the past. This is not the charming, picturesque hamlet that one might stumble upon in a travel brochure. Instead, it is a place where history has left its mark in the form of decay and desolation. The village, abandoned by all but a few reclusive inhabitants, stands as a silent witness to the mysteries that lurk beneath its surface. Emily Harris, a young historian with a keen interest in ancient lore and myths, arrives in this forsaken village with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. She is driven by tales of an ancient crypt buried deep beneath the village, a crypt that has long been whispered about in hushed tones. As her car rolls over the cobblestone roads leading into the village, Emily's heart races with anticipation. Her research has pointed her to this exact location, and she is determined to uncover the truth about the crypt and its dark secrets. The village is eerily quiet as Emily steps out of her vehicle. The only sounds are the distant calls of birds and the rustling of leaves in the wind. The buildings, once homes and shops, now stand in various states of disrepair. Windows are shattered, doors hang off their hinges, and the walls are covered in creeping ivy. The atmosphere is thick with an unsettling silence that seems almost tangible. Each step Emily takes echoes through the empty streets, amplifying the sense of isolation that envelopes her. Her first stop is the village inn, a ramshackle structure that looks as though it has not seen a guest in decades. The innkeeper, a gaunt old man with a wary gaze, greets Emily with a nod but says little. His silence speaks volumes, and Emily senses that the villagers are not eager to welcome outsiders. She takes her room key and heads up the creaking staircase, her footsteps resonating through the dimly lit hallway. As she settles into her room, Emily takes a moment to review her notes. According to local legends, the crypt beneath the village is said to be cursed, its secrets guarded by the undead. The stories vary, but they all paint a picture of a place shrouded in darkness and danger. The villagers, she learns, are fiercely protective of their silence regarding the crypt, and many are said to have suffered strange and unexplained occurrences if they ventured too close. Curiosity drives Emily to explore the village further. She ventures out into the misty streets, her flashlight casting long shadows on the cracked pavement. The village's desolation is both haunting and captivating. The houses, now overgrown with weeds and ivy, seem to hold secrets within their walls. Emily's footsteps lead her to the village church, a grand structure that has fallen into disrepair. Its spire, once a beacon of hope, now stands as a solitary silhouette against the darkening sky. Inside the church, Emily is met with a musty smell and the sight of dust-covered pews. The air is heavy with an oppressive sense of abandonment. She begins to search for any clues that might lead her to the crypt. Her efforts are rewarded when she discovers a hidden compartment behind an old altar. Inside, she finds ancient documents and maps that hint at the crypt's location and its dark purpose. As Emily examines the documents, she encounters the first hints of the village's dark history. The records describe strange rituals and disappearances linked to the crypt. They speak of a time when the village was alive with activity, but a series of unexplained events led to its gradual decline and eventual abandonment. The crypt, it seems, is central to this history, and the village's present state is a direct consequence of the dark forces that lie beneath. Despite the mounting evidence of danger, Emily is undeterred. Her academic curiosity drives her forward, and she resolves to uncover the truth about the crypt, no matter the cost. The village's few remaining inhabitants, however, are less than pleased with her presence. As she continues her exploration, she encounters several locals who regard her with suspicion and hostility. Their behavior only fuels Emily's determination to press on. One of the villagers, an old woman with a cryptic demeanor, approaches Emily with a warning. Some places, she says, are best left undisturbed. The crypt holds secrets that are not meant for mortal eyes. Her words are laced with a sense of urgency, but Emily's resolve remains unshaken. She thanks the woman for her concern and continues with her investigation. As night falls, Emily returns to the inn, her mind racing with the implications of what she has uncovered. The village, now shrouded in darkness, seems even more menacing. Strange noises outside her window, a distant howl, the rustling of leaves, contribute to an atmosphere of growing unease. Despite her exhaustion, Emily finds it difficult to sleep. The village's silence is oppressive, and she can't shake the feeling that she is being watched. In the quiet of the night, Emily reflects on the day's discoveries. The crypt, with its promise of dark secrets and ancient curses, beckons her. She knows that the journey ahead will be fraught with danger, but her commitment to uncovering the truth drives her forward. As she drifts off to sleep, the village's shadows seem to whisper of the horrors that lie ahead, and Emily resolves to face whatever awaits her in the depths of the forgotten crypt. The morning light barely penetrates the thick fog that blankets the village. Emily wakes with a sense of purpose, her mind focused on the mysteries that lie hidden beneath the surface. The village, still cloaked in an eerie silence, seems to hold its breath as she prepares for another day of exploration. Armed with her research materials and a growing determination, Emily sets out to uncover more about the crypt and its dark history. Her first destination is the village's remaining landmarks, the remnants of its once vibrant community. As she wanders through the abandoned streets, she notices the subtle signs of past life: an old playground overtaken by weeds, a cracked clock tower frozen in time, and shop windows dusted with layers of neglect. Each detail adds to the village's sense of melancholy and mystery, reinforcing Emily's resolve to discover the truth. The village's church, with its imposing yet dilapidated structure, becomes Emily's primary focus. She has already discovered a hidden compartment behind the altar, but her investigation is far from over. Inside the church's cryptic archives, she sifts through ancient records and dusty volumes. These documents, though fragmented, offer glimpses into the village's dark past. They recount tales of rituals performed in secrecy and mentions of a powerful artifact believed to be hidden within the crypt. Emily's search reveals more than just old records. She uncovers a series of maps and blueprints that hint at hidden passageways and secret chambers beneath the village. These documents suggest that the crypt is not just a single chamber, but an elaborate network of tunnels and rooms, carefully concealed from prying eyes. Her excitement grows as she realizes the complexity of the crypt's design and the depth of the secrets it may hold. As Emily delves deeper into her research, she encounters increasing resistance from the villagers. Their once passive avoidance of her now turns into outright hostility. The villagers, sensing the disruption Emily's presence causes, become more aggressive. They make it clear that they do not want her probing into matters best left alone. Some even go so far as to obstruct her efforts, taking measures to hide or destroy evidence. Despite the growing opposition, Emily remains undeterred. Her interactions with the villagers become more strained as she questions them about the crypt and its history. Their reluctance to speak and their evasive answers only reinforce her determination to uncover the truth. She begins to piece together a troubling pattern. The crypt's dark influence seems to extend beyond its physical boundaries, affecting the very fabric of the village itself. One evening, as Emily returns to the village and after a particularly frustrating day of research, she is approached by an elderly man with a weathered face and a wary expression. He introduces himself as Jacob, a former historian who has spent years studying the village's history. Jacob is hesitant at first, but eventually agrees to speak with Emily, sensing her genuine curiosity and determination. In a dimly lit room filled with old maps and documents, Jacob shares his knowledge of the crypt. He reveals that the village was once a thriving center of occult practices and dark rituals. The crypt was constructed as a repository for powerful artifacts and knowledge, and it was protected by a series of enchantments and guardians to prevent unauthorized access. Jacob's account matches with the evidence Emily has uncovered, adding credibility to the sinister stories surrounding the crypt. Jacob also shares his personal experiences with the crypt. He recounts a night when he ventured into the crypt's tunnels in search of hidden knowledge. His account is filled with chilling details of supernatural phenomena and encounters with shadowy figures. His story aligns with Emily's own findings and suggests that the crypt's dark power is very real. As their conversation progresses, Jacob becomes increasingly agitated. He warns Emily that the crypt's influence has a way of reaching out and affecting those who seek to uncover its secrets. He advises her to tread carefully and consider the potential consequences of her investigation. Despite his warning, Emily's determination only strengthens. She thanks Jacob for his insights and resolves to continue her quest to unravel the crypt's mysteries. That night, as Emily reflects on Jacob's warnings, she experiences a disturbing vision. In her dream, she finds herself wandering through the crypt's dark corridors, pursued by unseen forces. The vision is vivid and unsettling, filled with whispers and shadowy figures. When she awakens, the vision lingers in her mind, reinforcing her sense of dread and anticipation. The following day, Emily returns to the church to explore the hidden passageways mentioned in the documents. She carefully follows the maps, navigating through narrow, winding tunnels that lead her deeper into the village's underbelly. The air grows colder, and the darkness becomes more oppressive. Each step feels like a descent into the unknown. Emily's exploration leads her to a concealed chamber filled with ancient relics and symbols. The chamber's walls are adorned with faded murals depicting scenes of dark rituals and undead guardians. The artifacts in the chamber, though weathered and worn, hint at the crypt's former power and significance. Emily's heart races as she realizes that she is on the brink of uncovering the crypt's true nature. As she examines the chamber, Emily finds a hidden alcove containing a weathered journal. The journal, though difficult to read, provides further insights into the crypt's history and the rituals performed to protect it. The entries describe the crypt's purpose as a repository for powerful and dangerous knowledge, guarded by undead beings bound by ancient magic. With each discovery, Emily feels the weight of the crypt's dark secrets pressing down on her. The village's silence and the villagers' hostility seem to intensify as she gets closer to the truth. The crypt's influence appears to extend beyond its physical boundaries, affecting the very essence of the village. Determined to press on, Emily prepares for the next phase of her investigation. The crypt, with its promise of hidden knowledge and dark power, beckons her. She knows that her quest is far from over and that the greatest challenges and revelations lie ahead. With a sense of resolve and anticipation, Emily sets her sights on the crypt, ready to face whatever horrors and secrets await her in the depths of the forgotten darkness. Emily's journey into the village's heartland has been both thrilling and terrifying. With the hidden chamber uncovered and the crypt's dark history revealed, she now faces the challenge of penetrating deeper into the crypt's labyrinthine passages. Her resolve is unshakable, even as she feels the growing weight of the crypt's ominous presence. On a gray, overcast morning, Emily prepares for her descent into the crypt's depths. The village's quiet has become increasingly oppressive, with even the birds and wind seemingly holding their breath. Armed with her research, flashlight, and an assortment of tools, she heads toward the mansion on the outskirts of the village, the rumored entrance to the crypt. The mansion stands in a state of eerie grandeur. Its once majestic facade is now obscured by creeping vines and layers of grime. The heavy front door creaks open to reveal a dark, musty interior. Emily steps cautiously inside, her flashlight casting long, wavering shadows on the walls. The air is thick with dust and the faint, unpleasant odor of decay. As she explores the mansion, Emily encounters remnants of its former occupants, faded portraits, antique furniture covered in sheets, and cobwebs draped like ghostly curtains. Each room adds to the mansion's air of neglect and mystery. Emily's focus sharpens as she moves through the mansion, driven by the knowledge that the crypt's entrance is somewhere within. After an hour of searching, she discovers a hidden door concealed behind a large, ornate mirror in the mansion's library. The door is partially obscured by piles of old books and debris. With effort, she clears the area and reveals a set of stairs descending into darkness. Emily takes a deep breath and descends, her flashlight illuminating the narrow, winding staircase. The stairs lead to a stone corridor, cold and damp. The walls are lined with ancient runes, their meanings long forgotten. As Emily progresses, the air grows colder and the silence more profound. The corridor eventually opens into a vast underground chamber, its high ceiling lost in shadows. The chamber is filled with the remnants of old ritualistic items, candles, chalices, and ceremonial robes, evidence of the crypt's once active use. In the center of the chamber lies a large, ornate stone sarcophagus, covered in intricate carvings. The sarcophagus is the focal point of the chamber, and Emily approaches it with a mix of awe and apprehension. The carvings depict scenes of dark rituals and spectral beings, reinforcing the crypt's sinister reputation. Emily examines the sarcophagus closely, noting the elaborate design and the symbols etched into its surface. Her research has hinted at a powerful artifact contained within, and she suspects that this sarcophagus may be the key to the crypt's secrets. She finds an inscription on the sarcophagus, written in an ancient language. Using her translation skills, she deciphers the inscription. Here lies the guardian of eternal darkness, bound by ancient rites. The inscription suggests that the sarcophagus holds something, or someone, of immense power. Emily's excitement and fear are palpable as she prepares to open the sarcophagus. Her hands tremble as she pushes against the heavy lid, which creaks and groans in protest. The lid slowly reveals a dark interior, and Emily's flashlight illuminates the contents. Inside the sarcophagus lies a withered, skeletal figure dressed in ancient robes. The figure appears to be a mummified corpse, its features obscured by the ravages of time. Emily's heart races as she realizes that this is no ordinary skeleton. It is the guardian of the crypt, bound by ancient magic to protect its secrets. As Emily examines the figure, she begins to experience strange phenomena. The temperature in the chamber drops suddenly, and she feels a presence lurking just beyond her sight. Whispers echo through the chamber, their source impossible to pinpoint. The crypt's dark magic seems to awaken, reacting to Emily's intrusion. The whispers grow louder, and the shadows in the chamber start to take shape. Emily's flashlight flickers, casting erratic patterns of light and darkness. She feels an overwhelming sense of dread as the chamber's temperature continues to plummet. The undead guardian, though still, seems to stir as if sensing Emily's presence. Emily attempts to steady herself, but the oppressive atmosphere makes it difficult to think clearly. She realizes that the crypt's enchantments are not merely relics of the past. They are active and potent, designed to ward off intruders and protect the crypt's secrets. The Guardian's role is to ensure that no one disturbs the delicate balance between the living and the dead. Determined to push through her fear, Emily takes photos of the sarcophagus and the Guardian, documenting her findings for further analysis. The crypt's power is palpable, and she knows that she must tread carefully. Her intrusion has awakened forces that were meant to remain undisturbed. As she prepares to leave the chamber, Emily encounters a final, unsettling sight. The walls of the chamber begin to shift and change, revealing hidden passages and new symbols. The crypt's design is more complex than she initially realized, and the paths she once thought were straightforward now appear to be shifting and labyrinthine. The crypt's defenses are active, and Emily feels a growing urgency to escape before the situation escalates further. She retraces her steps carefully, navigating the ever-changing corridors with heightened caution. The whispers and shadows continue to haunt her, a reminder of the crypt's dark power. Emerging from the mansion, Emily is shaken but resolute. The crypt has revealed some of its secrets, but there is much more to uncover. The Guardian, with its ancient power, and the crypt's shifting passages suggest that the dangers are far from over. Emily knows that she has only scratched the surface of the crypt's mysteries, and her journey into the darkness is far from complete. As night falls over the village, Emily's thoughts are consumed by the crypt's dark allure. The village's silence feels more oppressive than ever, and the shadows seem to hold a deeper meaning. With the crypt's secrets still largely hidden, Emily prepares for the next phase of her investigation, knowing that the most significant revelations and the greatest dangers lie ahead. Emily's return to the village after her harrowing exploration of the crypt's depths is marked by a palpable shift in atmosphere. The once subdued silence of the village now feels charged with a sinister energy. The air is heavy with an unsettling presence, and even the seemingly mundane aspects of the village, its crumbling buildings and overgrown paths, seem to pulse with an otherworldly vitality. Determined to understand the full extent of the crypt's influence, Emily spends the next few days carefully documenting her findings and preparing for another venture into the depths. Her encounters with the villagers have become increasingly fraught. They watch her with wary eyes and speak in hushed tones. Their unease is growing, and Emily cannot shake the feeling that her actions have stirred something beyond the crypt's physical confines. The village's once muffled whispers become more distinct as Emily delves deeper into her research. It is as if the crypt's presence is seeping into every corner of the village, affecting the very fabric of reality. The walls of her seem to close in on her, and the shadows in her room appear to flicker with a life of their own. Emily's dreams are plagued by unsettling visions of the crypt, dark, shifting corridors and shadowy figures that seem to reach out for her. One evening, Emily decides to revisit the mansion and the crypt. She prepares meticulously, ensuring she has all necessary equipment and protective gear. The mansion's exterior, bathed in the eerie glow of the setting sun, seems to take on a more menacing appearance. The once grand entrance now looks like a gaping maw, ready to swallow her whole. With a deep breath, Emily pushes open the heavy door and steps inside. As she descends into the crypt once more, the sense of foreboding grows stronger. The air is colder, and the silence is more profound. The crypt seems to respond to her presence, the walls vibrating faintly, as if awakening from a long slumber. Emily reaches the chamber with the sarcophagus, where the skeletal guardian lies in repose. The atmosphere here is even more oppressive, and Emily feels a shiver run down her spine. The sarcophagus has changed. The carvings on its surface, once clear and defined, now seem to shift and writhe as if alive. The runes glow faintly in the darkness, their light pulsating in a rhythm that matches Emily's racing heart. The skeletal guardian, though unmoving, appears more animated, its hollow eye sockets seeming to follow Emily's every move. Emily approaches the sarcophagus with a mix of trepidation and resolve. Her previous findings suggest that the crypt holds a powerful artifact, and she is determined to uncover it. She carefully examines the inscriptions and carvings, noting their increasingly erratic patterns. It becomes clear that the crypt is reacting to her presence in ways she cannot fully understand. As she studies the sarcophagus, a sudden tremor shakes the chamber. Dust and debris fall from the ceiling, and the walls begin to crack. The crypt's enchantments, it seems, are struggling to contain whatever dark forces have been awakened. The tremors are accompanied by a low, guttural sound, an unsettling combination of whispers and growls that seems to come from deep within the earth. Emily's flashlight flickers as she searches for the source of the disturbance. The shifting shadows in the chamber take on a more defined shape, forming eerie, ghostly figures that seem to dance around the sarcophagus. The air is charged with a palpable sense of dread, and Emily feels an overwhelming pressure pushing against her chest. The chamber's temperature drops sharply, and Emily's breath forms visible clouds in the cold air. She realizes that the crypt's enchantments are not merely defensive. They're designed to keep something contained, and that something is beginning to break free. The skeletal guardian, though still motionless, seems to be the focal point of this dark awakening. With growing urgency, Emily searches the chamber for any clues or mechanisms that might help her understand what is happening. She notices a series of hidden levers and symbols on the walls, partially obscured by centuries of dust and decay. Her instincts tell her that these elements are key to unraveling the crypt's current crisis. Emily carefully activates the levers and deciphers the symbols, attempting to stabilize the crypt's enchantments. As she works, the chamber's trembling subsides, but the shadows and whispers continue to swirl around her. The crypt's response to her actions is unpredictable and violent, with the walls shifting and the ground beneath her feet becoming unstable. Amid the chaos, Emily uncovers a hidden compartment in the sarcophagus. Inside, she finds an ancient amulet, an intricately designed artifact that seems to radiate a faint, otherworldly glow. The amulet is adorned with symbols that match those on the sarcophagus, and Emily realizes that it is likely the key to the crypt's dark power. As she examines the amulet, the crypt's disturbances become more intense. The guardian's skeletal form seems to twitch, and the shadows in the chamber grow darker and more threatening. Emily's intuition tells her that the amulet has a significant role in controlling or harnessing the crypt's power. With the amulet in hand, Emily attempts to restore balance to the crypt. She carefully follows the instructions she has pieced together from her research and the hidden symbols. The crypt's tremors gradually lessen, and the oppressive atmosphere begins to recede. However, the crypt's dark influence remains palpable, a reminder of the power and danger that lies beneath. Emily's heart pounds as she exits the crypt, her mind racing with the implications of her discoveries. The village's silence feels heavier than ever, and the shadows seem to watch her every move. The crypt's awakening has shown her both the immense power contained within and the dangers that come with tampering with ancient forces. As she returns to the village, Emily reflects on the events of the night. The crypt's dark power has been partially contained, but the amulet's true significance remains uncertain. The village's atmosphere has shifted, and the crypt's influence is more apparent than ever. Emily knows that she must continue her investigation and unravel the remaining secrets of the crypt before it is too late. With a sense of determination and urgency, Emily prepares for the final stages of her journey. The crypt's dark awakening has set the stage for the ultimate confrontation with the forces that lie beneath. As she plans her next steps, Emily remains vigilant, knowing that the greatest challenges and revelations are still ahead. The village's atmosphere is palpably changed as Emily prepares for the final phase of her investigation. The once quiet streets now seem to pulse with an uneasy energy, reflecting the crypt's dark influence. The amulet she recovered from the crypt has brought her closer to understanding the true nature of the dark forces at play, and her resolve is firmer than ever. Emily's plan is to confront the heart of the crypt's power, and she knows that this will be the most dangerous part of her journey. Armed with the amulet and her detailed notes, she heads back to the mansion and its concealed entrance to the crypt. The mansion, under the eerie light of the full moon, looks even more foreboding. The shadows cast by the moon's glow dance menacingly across its facade, creating an almost living presence. As she descends into the crypt for what she hopes will be the final time, Emily feels a surge of both anticipation and dread. The air grows colder with each step, and the whispers from before seem to echo louder, more insistent. The crypt's labyrinthine passages stretch before her, their darkness swallowing up the light of her flashlight. The amulet around her neck seems to grow warmer as she approaches the heart of the crypt, a sign that its power is active. The chamber with the sarcophagus, now familiar, yet more menacing, awaits Emily. The sarcophagus itself remains as it was, its carvings shifting and glowing faintly. The undead guardian, though still inert, seems to radiate a sense of waiting, as if it knows that a pivotal moment is approaching. Emily's heart races as she approaches the sarcophagus, the amulet's warmth growing more intense. Emily begins to perform the ritual she has pieced together from her research. The ancient symbol she discovered in the crypt must be arranged in a specific order to activate the amulet's power and restore balance. Her hands tremble as she places the symbols in their designated positions, her mind focused on the intricate process. The air around her crackles with energy, and the shadows in the chamber writhe and twist as if resisting her efforts. As she completes the ritual, a powerful surge of energy erupts from the amulet. The chamber is bathed in a blinding light, and the air is filled with a resonant hum. The crypt's enchantments, disturbed by Emily's intrusion, react with a force that shakes the very foundations of the underground structure. The tremors are violent, and the chamber's walls crack and groan under the strain. In the midst of the chaos, the sarcophagus lid slowly begins to rise. The skeletal guardian inside appears to stir, its once lifeless form now moving with an unnatural vitality. The whispers in the air grow louder, merging into a cacophony of haunting voices. Emily braces herself, knowing that the crypt's most significant challenge is at hand. As the sarcophagus opens fully, the skeletal guardian rises, its hollow eyes glowing with an eerie light. The figure is no longer merely a mummified corpse, but an active, formidable presence. Emily's fear is palpable, but her determination remains unshaken. She knows that the Guardian is both a protector and a key to understanding the crypt's true nature. The Guardian's gaze fixes on Emily, and a chilling voice echoes through the chamber, demanding to know why she has disturbed the crypt. Emily stands her ground and explains her quest to uncover the truth behind the crypt's dark power. She speaks of the village's suffering and her desire to bring closure to its lingering mysteries. Her words are met with a silence that feels heavy with judgment. The Guardian's response is a mixture of ancient authority and cryptic warnings. It speaks of a curse that binds the crypt and the village, a curse that can only be lifted by understanding and respecting the dark forces at play. The amulet, the Guardian reveals, is a key to both containing and controlling these forces. It is not merely an artifact, but a powerful conduit that channels the crypt's ancient magic. Emily listens intently, absorbing the Guardian's words. The crypt's dark power is both a burden and a responsibility. To lift the curse and restore balance, she must use the amulet to harmonize the energies within the crypt and acknowledge the ancient forces that have been disturbed. The Guardian's role is to ensure that this process is completed with respect and precision. With renewed determination, Emily performs the final steps of the ritual. The chamber is filled with a blinding light as the amulet's power reaches its peak. The crypt's enchantments, now fully activated, begin to stabilize. The oppressive atmosphere lifts, and the shadows recede. The whispers in the air gradually fade, replaced by a profound silence. As the light dims and the chamber settles, Emily feels a sense of relief and accomplishment. The crypt's dark power has been contained, and the Guardian's form returns to its mummified state. The village's influence seems to wane, and the oppressive atmosphere lifts. Emily knows that her journey has not been in vain, and the crypt's secrets have been unveiled. As she exits the crypt and emerges into the night, Emily reflects on her experience. The village's silence feels different now, less menacing and more peaceful. The crypt's dark influence has been contained, and the village can begin to heal. Emily's resolve to uncover the truth has brought closure to a long-forgotten mystery. Emily makes her way back to the village inn, her heart heavy with the weight of her experiences. She has faced unimaginable challenges and uncovered profound secrets, but her journey is far from over. The crypt's dark power has been contained, but the lessons she has learned and the knowledge she has gained will stay with her. As she prepares to leave the village, Emily takes a moment to address her viewers. She shares her journey, the challenges she faced, and the resolution she has achieved. Her story is one of bravery, discovery, and the relentless pursuit of truth. She invites her viewers to subscribe to her channel and like the video, promising more adventures and mysteries to come. With a sense of fulfillment and anticipation, Emily sets her sights on new horizons. The crypt's secrets have been revealed, but the world is full of mysteries waiting to be uncovered. Her journey has just begun, and she is ready to face whatever challenges lie ahead. In the quiet folds of an ancient forest, where shadows cling to the trees and whispers travel with the wind, lies a legend so chilling it has gripped the hearts of a small village for decades. This is no ordinary tale. It's a story wrapped in mystery, darkness, and an enigmatic figure known only as the Whistling Woodsman. Imagine walking into a village where the air itself seems to carry a secret, a place where every rustle of leaves and every snap of a twig is imbued with the eerie feeling that something unseen is watching you. You've heard the stories. The Whistling Woodsman, a spectral figure haunting the depths of this dense woodland. He's described as a tall, shadowy apparition who traverses the forest with a ghostly whistle that chills the spine of anyone who hears it. But what if I told you that this ghostly figure, with his haunting melody and elusive presence, is more than just a figment of local superstition? What if the whispers of the woods hold the key to a long-buried truth? Our journey begins as night descends, and the village sleeps under a shroud of darkness. The only sound is the rhythmic chirping of crickets, punctuated by the occasional gust of wind. It's here that our protagonist, Alex, a young and intrepid journalist with a penchant for the paranormal, arrives. His arrival is met with wary glances and hushed conversations. The villagers, bound by tradition and fear, are reluctant to speak of the Whistling Woodsman. They've lived with the specter for so long that they prefer to leave the mysteries of the forest undisturbed. Alex's arrival, however, is anything but ordinary. Driven by a curiosity that refuses to be quelled, he steps into the village with a determination to uncover the truth. Armed with only a camera, a notebook, and a flashlight, Alex is ready to confront the unknown. His interest in folklore and the supernatural has led him to this remote corner of the world, and he is prepared to document whatever he finds. The villagers, though hesitant, reluctantly share their fragmented tales. They speak of strange occurrences, people disappearing, shadows flitting through the trees, and the unending whistle that echoes through the forest. Each story adds another layer to the legend, painting a picture of a spectral figure who exists somewhere between the realms of reality and myth. Alex listens intently, absorbing every detail, his resolve strengthening with each account. As dusk turns to night, Alex makes his way to the forest's edge. The transition from the village to the forest is stark. The air grows colder, the trees loom larger, and the familiar sounds of the village fade into a haunting silence. The forest is dense and foreboding, its dark canopy punctuated by occasional moonlight. The path ahead is shrouded in shadows, and Alex feels the weight of anticipation settle heavily upon him. Equipped with his flashlight and a sense of trepidation, Alex ventures into the forest. The deeper he goes, the more the forest seems to close in around him. The whispers of the wind grow louder, and the shadows take on a life of their own. Every crackle of the underbrush and every distant call of an owl seems to be a part of the Whistling Woodsman's eerie symphony. The atmosphere is thick with suspense, and Alex's heartbeat quickens with each step. Then, as if on cue, the whistling begins. It starts softly, a barely audible melody carried on the wind, but it quickly grows in volume, a haunting and rhythmic tune that sends shivers down Alex's spine. The whistle is both beautiful and unsettling, a melody that seems to beckon Alex deeper into the forest. The flashlight's beam dances erratically, casting long, eerie shadows that flicker and shift in the darkness. Alex's mind races as he tries to follow the sound. The forest path twists and turns, becoming increasingly disorienting. It's as though the forest itself is a labyrinth designed to confuse and ensnare him. The whistling grows louder, more insistent, and Alex feels an almost magnetic pull towards it. The sense of being watched is almost palpable, and every now and then, he glimpses fleeting shadows that vanish as quickly as they appear. In the midst of this, Alex's thoughts are a whirlwind of excitement and fear. He's on the verge of discovering something extraordinary, but he's also acutely aware of the danger that lurks in the shadows. The legend of the Whistling Woodsman is becoming real, and the forest's eerie ambience only adds to the sense of foreboding. What lies ahead is unknown, but Alex's determination to uncover the truth is unwavering. As the night progresses, the whistling becomes a constant companion, its melody weaving through the forest like a spectral guide. Alex presses on, driven by a mix of curiosity and apprehension. The forest's oppressive darkness and the haunting whistle are both thrilling and terrifying, and Alex knows that he is on the brink of something both profound and unsettling. The dawn of a new day brings little solace as Alex emerges from the forest, his exhaustion evident. The haunting melody of the Whistling Woodsman has faded, but the sense of unease clings to him like the morning mist. Alex's quest for answers has only just begun, and the forest, with its eerie whispers and elusive shadows, remains an enigma. In the heart of the village, the atmosphere is a stark contrast to the oppressive silence of the forest. The morning sun bathes the quaint buildings in a warm glow, but the villagers' wary eyes reveal the lingering fear. They continue to cast sidelong glances at Alex, their reluctance to discuss the Whistling Woodsman palpable. Their fear is rooted in a legend that has persisted for generations, a tale of a figure who exists somewhere between the living and the dead. Undeterred, Alex immerses himself in research, seeking to uncover any clues about the mysterious woodsman. The village library, though modest, holds a wealth of historical records and folklore. Alex pores over dusty manuscripts, old newspapers, and faded journals, piecing together fragments of a story that has been obscured by time. The records paint a picture of a tragic past, a tale of a woodcutter who vanished under mysterious circumstances many years ago. The woodcutter was a figure of local importance, a man who worked tirelessly in the forest to provide for his family. But his life took a dark turn when he was accused of crimes he did not commit. The village, gripped by fear and superstition, condemned him, leading to his disappearance and the birth of the legend of the Whistling Woodsman. Alex's research reveals that the woodcutter's disappearance was marked by a series of strange occurrences. People reported seeing shadows moving through the forest, hearing whispers on the wind, and experiencing inexplicable feelings of dread. The village was rife with rumors of a curse, a malevolent force that had claimed the woodcutter and bound him to the forest. Determined to explore these revelations further, Alex returns to the forest. Armed with the knowledge of the woodcutter's tragic past and the eerie symbols that have surfaced in his research, he sets out to investigate deeper into the heart of the woodland. The forest is no less intimidating in the daylight, its dense canopy casting long shadows that seem to dance with each step. As Alex ventures further, he encounters the symbols he had read about, ancient markings etched into the trees. These symbols are cryptic and foreboding, suggesting an old ritual or curse. Their presence is unsettling, hinting at a deeper connection between the forest and the Whistling Woodsman. The symbols are worn and weathered, but their significance is clear. They are remnants of a dark and forgotten past. Alex examines the symbols closely, taking notes and photographs. Each symbol seems to pulse with a strange energy, and the air around them feels charged with an otherworldly presence. The whistling, which had subsided during the day, starts again, more insistent and rhythmic. It is as though the woodsman is responding to Alex's presence, guiding him deeper into the forest's mysteries. The forest path becomes increasingly difficult to navigate. The trees grow denser, and the underbrush thickens, making it challenging to move forward. The shadows play tricks on Alex's mind, shifting and stretching as if alive. He feels a growing sense of disorientation, as though the forest itself is a living entity, its intentions as murky as the fog that clings to the ground. Despite the difficulties, Alex presses on. He believes that understanding the symbols and the history behind them is crucial to unraveling the mystery of the Whistling Woodsman. The deeper he goes, the more the forest seems to react to his presence. The whispers in the wind become louder, more coherent, and the shadows grow darker, more menacing. At last, Alex stumbles upon an ancient altar covered in the same symbols he has seen before. The altar is overgrown with moss and ivy, its surface etched with cryptic markings that seem to glow faintly in the dim light. It is a place of dark significance, a site where the old rituals may have been performed. The sight of the altar confirms Alex's suspicions. The Whistling Woodsman story is deeply intertwined with ancient rites and curses. Alex feels a mixture of triumph and apprehension. He has found a tangible link to the legend, but the altar's presence only deepens the mystery. The air around the altar is thick with tension, and Alex can't shake the feeling that he is being watched. The forest is eerily silent, as if holding its breath in anticipation. With newfound determination, Alex prepares for a deeper exploration of the altar and the symbols associated with it. He sets up his equipment, ready to document everything he finds. The forest is still and watchful, and Alex senses that he is on the verge of uncovering something profound. The Whistling Woodsman's tale is far from over, and the forest holds the key to unlocking its final secrets. With the discovery of the ancient altar, Alex feels a renewed sense of purpose. The forest, though still eerie, now feels like a labyrinth of secrets waiting to be uncovered. The altar, with its cryptic symbols and dark aura, represents a significant breakthrough in his investigation. As night begins to fall, the forest's true nature starts to reveal itself, and Alex prepares for what promises to be a night of revelations. Under the dim light of his flashlight, Alex examines the symbols carved into the altar. Each mark appears to be part of a larger pattern, possibly a ritualistic diagram or a map of some sort. The symbols are unfamiliar, but share similarities with ancient runes and occult symbols he's encountered in his research. He carefully records his observations, hoping that they might offer clues to the altar's purpose and its connection to the Whistling Woodsman. As he works, the haunting whistle returns, piercing the silence with its chilling melody. The sound seems to echo through the trees, creating a sense of unease and anticipation. Alex's heart races as he tries to follow the sound, which now feels more like a beckoning call than a mere background noise. The whistle is both hypnotic and unsettling, guiding him deeper into the forest. Determined to understand the significance of the altar, Alex decides to spend the night in its vicinity. He sets up camp a short distance away, making sure to keep the altar within view. The forest is alive with sounds, rustling leaves, distant animal calls, and the ever-present whistle that seems to weave through the darkness like a ghostly thread. As the hours pass, the atmosphere grows more intense. The whistle, though continuous, changes in tone and rhythm, almost as if communicating a message. Alex feels an inexplicable connection to the forest, as though he is on the cusp of discovering something momentous. The forest shadows dance ominously in the flickering light of his campfire, and every creak and snap in the underbrush heightens his senses. In the stillness of the night, Alex reviews his research notes and begins to piece together the puzzle. The symbols on the altar, combined with the historical accounts he's gathered, suggest that the Whistling Woodsman's tale may be linked to an ancient curse. According to local lore, the woodcutter was wrongfully accused and executed, and his spirit was bound to the forest as a form of punishment. The ritualistic symbols may have been part of the curse, designed to trap his soul within the forest's confines. The more Alex studies the symbols, the more he realizes that they form a pattern that resembles a protective sigil. It is as though the symbols were meant to keep something in rather than keep something out. This revelation adds a new layer to the mystery. The Whistling Woodsman may not be a mere apparition, but a trapped soul seeking release. As Alex contemplates this, he notices a faint, otherworldly glow emanating from the altar. The glow is subtle but persistent, casting a strange light on the symbols. It seems to pulse in rhythm with the whistle, creating an eerie synchronization between sound and light. The sight is both mesmerizing and unsettling, as if the forest itself is reacting to his presence and the discoveries he is making. Feeling a surge of courage and curiosity, Alex approaches the altar once more. He carefully examines the symbols under the glow of his flashlight and the mysterious light from the altar. He begins to hypothesize that performing a certain ritual or deciphering the symbols could potentially release the trapped spirit or reveal more about the whistling woodsman's true nature. The whistle grows louder, and the forest becomes eerily quiet, as if holding its breath. Alex senses a shift in the atmosphere, a palpable tension that indicates he is on the brink of a significant breakthrough. The symbols on the altar, once cryptic and enigmatic, now seem to align with a pattern he recognizes from his research, a ritualistic pattern designed to unlock or release. With this new understanding, Alex prepares to document his findings. He sets up his camera to capture the altar and the glowing symbols, hoping to capture any further anomalies or supernatural occurrences. The night is silent except for the persistent whistle, which now feels like a guiding force. As he continues his work, Alex can't shake the feeling that he is not alone. The forest shadows seem to move with purpose, and the distant whistle seems to come from all directions at once. He remains focused on the altar, his senses heightened, and his determination unwavering. The whistling woodsman's tale is unfolding, and Alex is at the center of it, unraveling the secrets of a long-forgotten mystery. The night stretches on, and the forest remains a place of dark wonder. Alex's discoveries have brought him closer to the truth, but the ultimate revelation is still out of reach. The whistling woodsman's story is far from over, and the forest holds its secrets tightly. As dawn approaches, Alex prepares for another day of exploration, driven by the knowledge that the answers he seeks are within his grasp. The first light of dawn filters through the dense canopy, casting an ethereal glow over the forest floor. Alex, though fatigued, is invigorated by the progress he has made. The night's revelations have deepened his understanding of the whistling woodsman and the ancient curse that binds him. Now, he is poised to confront the forest's darkest secrets. With the symbols and the altar as focal points, Alex decides to delve into the heart of the forest where the whispers and the whistling seem to converge. The forest, once an oppressive maze, now feels like a living entity with its own rhythm and purpose. The deeper Alex ventures, the more the forest seems to come alive with an almost palpable sense of anticipation. The path ahead is treacherous, overgrown with vines and tangled roots. Alex navigates with care, his flashlight cutting through the misty gloom. The forest is eerily quiet, save for the occasional rustle of leaves and the faint echo of the haunting whistle. It's as though the forest is holding its breath, waiting for the next chapter in the unfolding mystery. After hours of careful navigation, Alex arrives at a secluded clearing. At its center stands an ancient, weathered tree, its gnarled branches stretching towards the sky like skeletal fingers. The tree's trunk is covered in more symbols, similar to those on the altar, but these are larger and more intricate. The markings are arranged in a pattern that resembles an elaborate ceremonial design. Alex approaches the tree with a mix of reverence and trepidation. He feels a strong, almost magnetic pull towards it, as if the tree itself is a focal point of the forest's supernatural energy. The symbols on the tree appear to be a more detailed version of those he found earlier, hinting at a complex ritual or ceremony that took place long ago. The whistle grows louder as Alex examines the tree, its melody resonating through the clearing. The sound is mesmerizing, almost hypnotic, and Alex finds himself drawn to it. He feels an intense connection to the forest and the whistling woodsman, as if the two are intertwined in a way that transcends time and space. As he studies the symbols, Alex begins to decipher their meaning. The patterns suggest a ritual intended to bind or trap a spirit, and the tree may have been the focal point of this dark ceremony. The clearing, with its ancient tree and arcane symbols, is likely the site where the woodcutter's soul was bound to the forest. With this realization, Alex sets up his equipment to document the tree and the symbols. He captures close-up images of the markings, noting their significance and potential connection to the whistling woodsman's legend. The forest remains eerily silent, the only sound being the persistent whistle that seems to emanate from the very heart of the clearing. As he works, Alex begins to sense a change in the atmosphere. The air grows colder, and the shadows around the tree appear to deepen and shift. It's as if the forest itself is reacting to his presence and his discoveries. The whistle becomes more pronounced, its rhythm quickening, as if urging Alex to uncover the final truth. Alex's investigation leads him to a hidden compartment at the base of the tree. It is covered in vines and debris, but a closer examination reveals an old, weathered box. The box is adorned with more symbols, and it seems to pulse with a faint, otherworldly light. With a mixture of excitement and apprehension, Alex opens the box. Inside, he finds a collection of ancient artifacts, a weathered journal, a series of handwritten notes, and a small, intricately carved amulet. The journal appears to belong to the woodcutter, and its pages are filled with accounts of the forest, the rituals performed, and his own despair of being wrongfully accused and cursed. The notes reveal the details of the ritual that bound his spirit to the forest, along with pleas for forgiveness and release. The amulet, carved with the same symbols found on the tree and altar, seems to be the key to breaking the curse. It's a powerful artifact, imbued with the essence of the forest's dark magic. Alex realizes that the amulet may hold the power to release the whistling woodsman spirit and put an end to the haunting melody that has plagued the village for so long. With the artifacts in hand, Alex prepares to perform a ritual to break the curse. The clearing, with its ancient tree and the symbols carved into its trunk, is the perfect place for this final confrontation. As he sets up the ritual, he feels a deep sense of connection to the forest and the spirit trapped within it. The whistle reaches a crescendo as Alex begins the ritual, its melody blending with the ancient incantations he recites. The forest responds with a surge of energy, and the air crackles with supernatural power. The symbols on the tree glow with a faint light, and the amulet pulsates with an almost tangible force. As the ritual progresses, the forest seems to come alive with a sense of release. The shadows around the tree dissipate, and the whistle gradually fades into a soft, soothing melody. Alex feels a profound sense of peace, as if the forest itself is finally free from the burden of its dark past. The Whistling Woodsman's story is coming to a close, and Alex's determination and bravery have led to the resolution of a long-standing mystery. The forest, once a place of fear and uncertainty, now feels tranquil and serene. Alex's journey has uncovered the truth and brought closure to a tale of tragedy and redemption. The first light of dawn bathes the forest in a soft, golden hue, casting a serene glow over the clearing. Alex stands before the ancient tree, feeling a deep sense of accomplishment and relief. The ritual has been completed, and the haunting whistle of the Whistling Woodsman has finally faded into a gentle, harmonious melody. The forest, once cloaked in shadows and mystery, now feels calm and liberated. With the amulet and the artifacts safely packed, Alex takes a moment to reflect on the journey that led him here. The whispers of the past have been replaced by a soothing silence, and the oppressive atmosphere that once hung over the forest has lifted. The clearing, with its ancient tree and intricate symbols, now feels like a place of peace and resolution. Alex's thoughts turn to the village and the people who have been living in the shadow of the Whistling Woodsman's legend. The forest transformation is a testament to the truth that has been uncovered, and he is eager to share his findings with the community. The story of the Whistling Woodsman, once a source of fear and superstition, is now a tale of redemption and closure. Returning to the village, Alex is greeted with a mixture of curiosity and relief. The villagers, who had been wary and fearful, now look at him with hope and anticipation. They gather around as Alex prepares to recount his discoveries, eager to learn about the resolution of the mystery that has haunted their lives. In a gathering at the village square, Alex begins to share the story of his journey. He explains the history of the Whistling Woodsman, the ancient curse, and the ritual that bound the woodcutter's spirit to the forest. The villagers listen intently, their expressions shifting from skepticism to awe as Alex reveals the truth behind the legend. As he describes the clearing, the ancient tree, and the artifacts, the villagers' fear gradually turns to understanding. The Whistling Woodsman, once a figure of dread, is now seen as a tragic character whose story has finally been told and resolved. The villagers express their gratitude for Alex's bravery and dedication, acknowledging the closure that his investigation has brought. In the days that follow, the village begins to heal from the shadow of the Whistling Woodsman. The forest, once a place of fear, is now a symbol of renewal and redemption. The villagers venture into the woods with a new sense of peace, their once treacherous path now a place of reflection and connection with their past. Alex, having completed his mission, prepares to leave the village. His time in the forest has been transformative, and he leaves with a deep appreciation for the resilience of the human spirit and the power of uncovering the truth. The Whistling Woodsman's tale, now fully resolved, is a testament to the power of investigation and the pursuit of understanding. As he says his goodbyes and prepares to depart, Alex reflects on the journey he has undertaken. The Whistling Woodsman, once a source of fear and mystery, is now a chapter in history that has been brought to light. The forest, once a place of darkness, now stands as a beacon of hope and renewal. Before he leaves, Alex makes a final stop at the village square. He takes a moment to address the gathered crowd, expressing his gratitude for their support and courage. He encourages them to embrace the new chapter in their history and to remember the lessons learned from the Whistling Woodsman's story. As Alex's departure draws near, the village is filled with a sense of closure and optimism. The Whistling Woodsman's legend, once a haunting echo in the forest, has been transformed into a story of redemption and peace. The forest, now a place of tranquility, stands as a testament to the journey of discovery and the resolution of long-held fears. The tale of the Whistling Woodsman, from its origins in darkness to its resolution in light, serves as a reminder of the power of truth and the importance of facing our fears. Alex's journey has not only uncovered a long-buried mystery, but has also brought healing and understanding to a community once overshadowed by legend. As the village returns to its daily life, the memory of the Whistling Woodsman becomes a part of their collective history, a story told and remembered with respect and gratitude. The forest, now a place of peace and reflection, stands as a symbol of the enduring strength of the human spirit and the transformative power of uncovering the truth. Don't forget to subscribe in the channel and like the video. Morning fog draped over Hollowbrook like a cloak of mystery, enveloping every corner and cottage in a damp embrace. Alex Carter, a journalist known for his relentless curiosity, disembarked from the train and took a deep breath. The mist wasn't just a weather phenomenon. It was a harbinger of buried secrets and untold stories. Hollowbrook wasn't a place that would typically feature in travel guides. Its reputation was built on tranquility and old-world charm. The cobblestone streets and red brick houses looked like they belonged in a fairy tale, but Alex knew that surface beauty often concealed deeper truths. And the truth, in this new assignment, lay in a mask that everyone seemed to avoid. Alex's journey began with a seemingly innocuous invitation, a friend's suggestion about a peculiar artifact that had caught the attention of many but was rarely discussed openly. The mask, as it was called, was an ancient relic shrouded in legend and rumor, speaking of inexplicable misfortunes. Driven by a desire to understand what made this item a taboo, Alex had decided to investigate. His first impression of the village was one of unsettling calm. As he walked through the streets, it was impossible not to notice the absence of children playing or even the murmur of casual conversations among the townsfolk. The silence was dense, as if the town itself was holding its breath. The few people who did cross his path regarded him with a mix of curiosity and concern. Alex made his way to the old antique shop that served as the primary source of information about the mask. The building, a Victorian structure with dusty windows and a faded wooden sign, looked as much a relic of the past as the artifact itself. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of aged wood and leather-bound books. The shop's elderly owner, with piercing eyes and gray hair, greeted Alex with a look that combined exhaustion and intrigue. "You're interested in the mask, aren't you?" the man asked, his voice raspy as if accustomed to infrequent conversations. Alex nodded, feeling a chill that seemed more than just a result of the shop's cold environment. The man, with a slow and deliberate gesture, led Alex to a dark corner of the shop where the mask was kept in a locked display case. The greenish sheen of the glass reflected the flickering shadows of nearby candles. "This piece has a long and sorrowful history," the owner began, his tone heavy with warning. "Some say it's cursed. Others claim it's a gateway to something beyond comprehension." Alex gazed at the mask, a piece of art both fascinating and disturbing. With a smile frozen into a grotesque expression, it appeared to have been crafted to capture the essence of an ancient time, but its hollow eyes conveyed a sense of depth that quickened his pulse. The owner recounted tales of people who, after coming into contact with the mask, had experienced inexplicable disasters and untimely deaths. Despite the warnings, Alex was more determined than ever to uncover the truth behind this artifact. He knew that the story of the mask was not just about an old object, but about what it represented to those who feared and revered its presence. As the sun set and the fog began to thicken once more, Alex left the shop with a feeling that something profound and unsettling was about to be revealed. The mask was more than a mere antique. It was a catalyst for events that could unearth Hollowbrook's darkest secrets. And as he walked down the silent street, he felt that the real challenge was only just beginning. With the veil of night settling over Hollowbrook, Alex Carter dove headfirst into the shadowy depths of the town's past, determined to unearth the truth behind the ominous mask. His initial encounter with the artifact had left him both intrigued and unsettled, fueling his resolve to unravel the mysteries that surrounded it. The following morning, Alex's first destination was the town library, a seemingly innocuous place filled with the scent of aged paper and dust. The library was a grand old building, its architecture reflecting the town's storied history. Inside, the air was cool and heavy with the promise of forgotten knowledge. Alex began his research with a sense of anticipation, knowing that the library's archives might hold the key to understanding the mask's dark influence. As he pored over old newspapers and historical records, Alex stumbled upon articles that referenced the mask in various unsettling contexts. The accounts spoke of previous owners who had met tragic and mysterious ends, their stories woven into the town's lore. The more Alex read, the clearer it became that the mask was not merely a relic, but a conduit for something far more sinister. The historical records painted a picture of the mask's origin, a creation of an ancient cult that once thrived in Hollowbrook. The cult's rituals were said to involve the mask in ceremonies intended to harness dark forces. As Alex delved deeper, he found references to a series of inexplicable accidents and deaths that seemed to follow the mask wherever it went. The consistency of these events suggested a pattern, one that defied logical explanation. In his quest for more concrete evidence, Alex sought out the town's elderly historian, a man whose deep knowledge of local folklore made him a valuable source of information. Meeting in a dimly lit cafe, the historian's voice trembled as he recounted the mask's history. He spoke of a time when Hollowbrook was shrouded in fear and superstition, with the mask at the center of a dark legacy that had long been buried. According to the historian, the mask was believed to possess the ability to influence and corrupt those who came into contact with it. Its previous owners were said to have fallen into madness, driven by a combination of fear and an overwhelming sense of dread. The historian's eyes, filled with a mix of sorrow and apprehension, hinted at the mask's power to manipulate reality itself. Armed with this new information, Alex began to experience strange occurrences that mirrored the unsettling stories he had read. Small, inexplicable events began to unfold around him. A cold draft in an otherwise warm room, objects seemingly moved from their places, and fleeting shadows that danced at the edge of his vision. The atmosphere of the town, once quaint and charming, now seemed charged with an undercurrent of menace. Determined to get closer to the truth, Alex returned to the antique shop. This time, he aimed to uncover more about the mask's current state and its role in the town's present circumstances. Under the guise of a casual conversation, Alex inquired about the mask's condition and its recent history. The shopkeeper, though initially hesitant, eventually revealed that the mask had been passed down through various collectors, each of whom had experienced misfortune. As Alex continued his investigation, he noticed a growing sense of paranoia among the townsfolk. People seemed more guarded, their eyes darting nervously as if they feared something unseen. The town's once friendly demeanor had transformed into one of suspicion and unease. Alex's interactions with the locals became increasingly strained, as if his inquiries were stirring up something better left undisturbed. One evening, while walking through the town square, Alex encountered a stranger cloaked in darkness. The figure's presence was unsettling, and their warning came with an edge of desperation. "Leave now, while you still can," the stranger advised in a voice that echoed with a foreboding resonance. The warning only deepened Alex's resolve, though he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being drawn into a deeper and more dangerous game. With each passing day, the mask's grip on Hollowbrook seemed to tighten, its influence spreading through the town like a shadowy fog. Alex knew he was on the brink of uncovering something profound, but the mounting tension and strange occurrences were beginning to take a toll on him. The line between reality and the mask's dark influence was growing increasingly blurred, and Alex found himself entangled in a web of fear and mystery. The more he learned, the more he realized that Hollowbrook's secrets were far more complex and terrifying than he had ever imagined. The mask was not just an artifact. It was a key to a nightmare that had been buried for generations. As Alex braced himself for the challenges ahead, he knew that the deeper he delved, the closer he came to confronting the true horrors that lay hidden in the heart of Hollowbrook. As Alex Carter's investigation continued, the weight of Hollowbrook's secrets grew heavier, each revelation adding a layer of complexity to the enigma of the mask. With the town's atmosphere growing increasingly oppressive, Alex found himself at the intersection of fear and curiosity, driven to uncover the truth despite the mounting risks. Determined to penetrate deeper into the mask's dark influence, Alex began to seek out more first-hand accounts from those who had experienced its malevolent effects. He arranged meetings with the few locals willing to speak candidly, their faces etched with lines of unease as they recounted their chilling encounters. Each story added to the growing tapestry of the mask's grim legacy. One of the most disturbing accounts came from a local woman named Evelyn, who had recently lost her husband under mysterious circumstances. Evelyn described how her husband had been drawn to the mask's allure, despite her warnings. She recounted his growing obsession, the strange behavior that ensued, and the tragic end that followed. Her voice quivered with the weight of her grief, and Alex could see the profound impact the mask had on her life. As Alex pieced together these personal stories, a pattern began to emerge. The mask seemed to have a profound psychological effect on its bearers, leading them into states of paranoia and madness. Each story painted a picture of individuals whose lives had been upended by an artifact that seemed to prey on their deepest fears. In his quest for answers, Alex delved into the town's archives, searching for any records that might provide further insight into the mask's history. Among the dusty files and faded documents, he discovered a series of journal entries written by an early settler of Hollowbrook. The entries detailed the settler's growing fear of the mask and the strange events that occurred after its arrival in town. The journal entries revealed a descent into madness, with the settler documenting increasingly bizarre and terrifying experiences. The more Alex read, the more he realized that the mask's influence extended far beyond mere superstition. It seemed to have a tangible effect on those who came into contact with it, distorting their perceptions and driving them to the brink of insanity. The journal entries also hinted at a possible connection between the mask and a series of inexplicable disappearances that had plagued the town over the years. As Alex's research continued, he began to experience unsettling phenomena of his own. Strange noises echoed through his rented room at night, and fleeting shadows danced at the edge of his vision. The once charming town now felt like a labyrinth of fear, each corner holding a new secret waiting to be uncovered. His interactions with the townsfolk grew increasingly tense, as if his probing questions were stirring up something best left forgotten. One evening, while exploring the outskirts of Hollowbrook, Alex stumbled upon an old, abandoned house that seemed to hold an air of foreboding. The house, overgrown with ivy and shrouded in darkness, appeared to be a relic from a bygone era. Driven by a sense of urgency, Alex ventured inside, hoping to find clues that might shed light on the mask's origins. Inside the house, Alex found a room filled with eerie artifacts and remnants of rituals. Strange symbols were etched into the walls, and dusty tomes lay scattered across the floor. Among the debris, Alex discovered a hidden compartment containing a weathered manuscript. The manuscript detailed ancient rituals and rites that were once performed in Hollowbrook, including those involving the mask. The rituals spoke of summoning dark forces and binding them to the artifact, further confirming the mask's malevolent nature. The discovery of the manuscript only deepened Alex's resolve. He knew that the mask was more than just a piece of history. It was a conduit for something dark and powerful. As he pieced together the fragments of the town's history and the mask's influence, he realized that he was not merely investigating an artifact, but unraveling a dark legacy that had shaped Hollowbrook for generations. With each revelation, Alex felt himself being drawn further into the mask's web of influence. The lines between reality and the mask's dark power grew increasingly blurred, and the sense of dread that had initially seemed distant was now a palpable force. The mask was no longer just a curiosity. It was a central element in a nightmarish puzzle that Alex was determined to solve. As Alex continued his investigation, he could sense that he was approaching a critical juncture. The mask's grip on the town was tightening, and the truth about its origins and its impact on Hollowbrook was slowly coming to light. With the stakes higher than ever, Alex knew that he was on the verge of uncovering something that could change everything he thought he knew about fear and the supernatural. The fog around Hollowbrook had thickened, becoming an almost palpable entity that seemed to suffocate the town's every breath. As Alex Carter delved deeper into his investigation, the boundaries between reality and nightmare began to erode, leading him into a harrowing confrontation with the mask's dark power. The discoveries Alex had made over the past weeks had painted a chilling portrait of the mask's influence. Its capacity to drive people into madness was not merely a story. It was a tangible force that now seemed to be targeting him. Strange occurrences had escalated into disturbing experiences. Whispers in the dark, shadowy figures darting across his path, and an ever-present feeling of being watched. One evening, driven by a sense of urgency, Alex decided to revisit the antique shop. He had gathered enough information to piece together a theory about the mask's origin and purpose, but he needed to confirm it. The shop, once a repository of dust and secrets, now felt like a tomb, its silence heavy with the weight of unspoken horrors. Inside, the shopkeeper greeted Alex with an uneasy glance. "You're pushing too far," the man warned, his voice trembling slightly. "The mask is not something you can just uncover and dismiss. It has a way of consuming those who seek to understand it." Ignoring the warning, Alex asked to see the mask again. The shopkeeper hesitated, but eventually unlocked the display case. As Alex stared at the mask, its grotesque smile seemed to distort, as if the mask itself were aware of his intrusion. The sight filled him with an overwhelming sense of dread, yet he was unable to look away. Determined to face the truth, Alex conducted a series of ritualistic tests, hoping to uncover the mask's hidden properties. Using the ancient manuscript he had discovered, he attempted to replicate some of the rituals described, believing that understanding the mask's mechanics might offer some semblance of control. The rituals were dark and unsettling, but Alex pressed on, driven by the hope that they would provide answers. As the rituals unfolded, Alex's surroundings began to warp. The walls of his room seemed to breathe, shifting and warping as if responding to the mask's influence. Shadows lengthened, forming sinister shapes that seemed to whisper secrets just beyond comprehension. The atmosphere was charged with an eerie energy, amplifying his fear and paranoia. The mask's power was not just psychological, it manifested in tangible, horrifying ways. Alex began to experience vivid hallucinations, where reality seemed to dissolve into a series of grotesque visions. He saw twisted versions of the people he had interviewed, their faces contorted in agony, pleading for help that never came. The boundary between his waking life and the nightmares induced by the mask became increasingly blurred. One night, the town itself seemed to come alive with malevolence. The fog outside grew thicker, wrapping the streets in a suffocating embrace. Alex ventured out into the night, driven by a compulsion he couldn't explain. The streets, once familiar, now felt alien and hostile, each corner hiding an unseen menace. In the heart of the town, Alex stumbled upon a hidden chamber beneath an old, abandoned church. The chamber was a site of ancient rituals, with markings on the walls that matched those he had seen in the manuscript. In the center of the chamber lay an altar, and on it, a second mask, almost identical to the one in the antique shop, but with a more sinister, menacing aura. As Alex approached the altar, the air grew colder, and a spectral presence seemed to envelop him. The mask on the altar seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy, and Alex felt an irresistible pull toward it. With a sense of impending doom, he reached out to touch the mask. The moment his fingers made contact, a surge of dark energy erupted from the mask, engulfing Alex in a vortex of fear and despair. He was overwhelmed by a torrent of visions, images of previous owners trapped in endless cycles of terror, their screams echoing through the chamber. The force of the mask's influence threatened to consume him entirely. In a desperate bid to escape the grip of the mask, Alex fled the chamber, his mind reeling from the overwhelming experience. The town streets seemed to twist and contort, leading him in circles as if mocking his attempts to escape. The mask's power was relentless, and Alex knew he had to confront it directly to break its hold on him and on Hollowbrook. As dawn approached, Alex returned to the antique shop, determined to put an end to the mask's reign of terror. The shopkeeper's warnings echoed in his mind, but he was resolved to face the darkness head-on. He knew that the final confrontation with the mask was inevitable, and the outcome would determine not only his fate, but also the fate of Hollowbrook itself. As the first light of dawn broke over Hollowbrook, it painted the town in hues of gold and pink, but the early morning calm did little to dispel the sense of dread that hung in the air. Alex Carter, having faced the full brunt of the mask's malevolent power, was determined to end the nightmare that had taken over the town. The antique shop, now a battleground between light and dark, held the key to resolving the terror. The shopkeeper, though visibly shaken, reluctantly agreed to assist Alex in a final attempt to neutralize the mask's influence. The shopkeeper's knowledge of the mask's history and rituals would prove crucial in this last effort. With the shopkeeper's guidance, Alex prepared for the final ritual, one described in the ancient manuscript as a means to sever the mask's connection to its dark forces. The ritual was complex, involving a series of incantations and symbolic actions intended to cleanse the artifact of its malign energy. The shop was transformed into a ritual space, with candles arranged in specific patterns and ancient symbols drawn on the floor. As Alex began the ritual, the atmosphere in the shop grew thick with tension. The mask, still encased in its display, seemed to resonate with a dark energy, as if it were aware of the impending confrontation. The flickering candlelight cast eerie shadows on the walls, creating an unsettling ambience that seemed to amplify the ritual's intensity. The ritual's incantations, spoken in a language Alex could barely comprehend, felt like a confrontation with the very essence of the mask's power. The air grew colder, and the shop's surroundings seemed to warp and twist, as if reality itself were bending under the weight of the ritual. Alex could feel the mask's dark influence trying to resist, its power manifesting in gusts of cold wind and unsettling noises. Just as the ritual reached its climax, the mask's display case shattered, and the mask itself began to glow with an ominous light. Alex's heart raced as he chanted the final words of the incantation, his voice steady despite the overwhelming fear. The light from the mask grew brighter, its intensity reaching a peak that seemed to pierce through the very fabric of the shop. With a final, decisive chant, Alex completed the ritual. The mask's light flickered and then dimmed, the oppressive energy that had surrounded it dissipating. The shop fell silent, the only sound the crackling of the remaining candles. Alex felt a profound sense of relief, knowing that the mask's dark influence had been broken. The shopkeeper, though exhausted, thanked Alex with a look of gratitude. The mask's power had been neutralized, but the damage it had inflicted on Hollowbrook would take time to heal. The town's atmosphere, once charged with fear, now felt lighter, as if a heavy burden had been lifted. As Alex prepared to leave Hollowbrook, he reflected on the journey he had undertaken. The town, once shrouded in darkness, had been given a chance to reclaim its peace. The mask, now devoid of its dark power, would be relegated to a place of historical significance, no longer a source of terror. Before departing, Alex addressed the townsfolk gathered at the town square. His words were filled with a mix of relief and resolve. Hollowbrook has faced its darkest fears and emerged stronger. The mask's power is broken, but the lessons we've learned will remain. Let us move forward with the knowledge that even the darkest forces can be overcome. As Alex boarded the train to leave Hollowbrook, he looked back at the town with a sense of closure. The journey had been harrowing, but it had revealed the strength and resilience of a community facing its deepest fears. The story of the mask would serve as a reminder of the shadows that lurk in the corners of our world and the courage needed to confront them. Don't forget to subscribe in the channel and like the video. The invitation arrived unexpectedly, a single, enigmatic piece of parchment that seemed to carry with it a shroud of mystery. It was not delivered by any ordinary means, but slipped under David Mitchell's office door one crisp autumn morning. The parchment, though aged and slightly frayed at the edges, was adorned with elegant, flowing handwriting that drew David's eyes immediately. The message was succinct, yet provocative. You are cordially invited to a night of enchantment and enigma at the Carnival of Nightmares. David Mitchell, a young journalist with a reputation for diving into the strange and unexplained, felt a shiver of excitement. This was not just another assignment. It was a venture into the unknown, a chance to uncover the truth behind an event shrouded in secrecy. Despite the eerie undertone of the invitation, he was compelled by an insatiable curiosity. As twilight descended, David made his way to the location indicated on the parchment. The carnival was situated on the outskirts of town, far removed from the bustle of city life. The road leading to it was flanked by gnarled trees, their branches twisting like skeletal fingers in the fading light. The atmosphere grew thicker with each passing mile, the air charged with a palpable sense of anticipation. Upon arrival, David was struck by the sight that greeted him. The carnival, although long considered abandoned, had been resurrected for this singular occasion. The entrance, marked by a grand archway covered in dark crimson velvet, was illuminated by flickering lights that cast eerie shadows across the ground. The once vibrant colors of the carnival now seemed muted, as though they had been drained of their life force. The bright bulbs of the marquee created a surreal glow, their light dancing in a way that seemed almost too perfect, too calculated. The first thing David noticed was the silence. There were no cheerful noises, no distant laughter, just the soft hum of lights and the occasional rustling of the wind through the trees. It felt as though the carnival was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. As he walked further in, the scent of sweet caramel and freshly popped popcorn mingled with a strange, metallic tang that David couldn't quite place. The aromas created an unsettling contrast, adding to the carnival's surreal and unsettling ambience. David was soon greeted by Victor, the carnival's proprietor. Victor was a tall man with a gaunt face and piercing green eyes that seemed to see right through him. His appearance was both captivating and unsettling. He wore a dark, tailored suit with a waistcoat and a red cravat, which gave him an air of old-world charm mixed with an unsettling edge. Victor's smile was broad and seemingly genuine, but it didn't quite reach his eyes, which gleamed with an unsettling intensity. "Welcome, Mr. Mitchell," Victor said, his voice smooth and resonant. "We've been expecting you. Please, allow me to give you a tour of our humble establishment." As Victor guided David through the carnival, he spoke with an almost obsessive fervor about its history. He described each attraction with a mixture of reverence and pride, as if they were not merely rides and games but relics of a lost era. The Ferris wheel loomed in the distance, its iron frame towering against the night sky. The carousel, adorned with intricately carved horses, spun slowly, though no one was riding it. The vibrant colors of the carousel horses seemed faded, their once bright hues now tinged with a ghostly pallor. David noted that many of the attractions appeared well-preserved, their structures immaculate despite the carnival's supposed abandonment. Yet there was something off about them, something that made David's skin crawl. The carnival seemed to exude a sort of sinister energy, an unspoken menace that lay just beneath the surface. Victor led David to the various stalls and games, each one designed to lure visitors into a sense of nostalgia and wonder. The ring toss, the duck pond, the fortune teller's tent, all were meticulously maintained, yet each seemed to hide a darker undercurrent. The fortune teller's tent, in particular, was shrouded in an eerie, otherworldly glow. Inside, the fortune teller, an old woman with piercing eyes and a knowing smile, offered cryptic readings that left David feeling more unsettled than enlightened. As the night progressed, David's initial thrill began to wane, replaced by a growing sense of unease. The carnival's atmosphere, while outwardly enchanting, felt increasingly claustrophobic. The lights, though beautiful, seemed to cast unnatural shadows, and the carnival's silence was punctuated only by the occasional creak of old wood and the distant, mournful call of an owl. The deeper David ventured into the carnival, the more he felt that something was amiss. The enchantment that Victor spoke of seemed to be a veneer covering something far darker and more sinister. The carnival, though alive with activity, had an aura of death and decay that was impossible to ignore. It was as if the carnival itself was a living entity, and David was an intruder in its hidden realm. As he concluded his tour with Victor and prepared to leave, David couldn't shake the feeling that he had only scratched the surface of something much larger and more terrifying. The carnival's beauty and charm were undeniable, but they were overshadowed by an undercurrent of dread that seemed to seep into every corner of the grounds. With a sense of foreboding, David made his way back to the entrance, but as he glanced over his shoulder, he couldn't help but feel that the carnival was watching him, waiting. The night was far from over, and David had the unsettling suspicion that the true horrors of the Carnival of Nightmares were only just beginning to unfold. The initial thrill of the Carnival of Nightmares had begun to fade for David Mitchell as he ventured deeper into the heart of the carnival. What had initially seemed like an enchanting playground now presented itself as a labyrinth of unsettling and mysterious traps. The carnival's allure was a carefully crafted facade, concealing a series of devious contraptions designed to ensnare those who dared to explore beyond the surface. David's curiosity led him to the various attractions with a heightened sense of wariness. Each booth and ride, while outwardly inviting, seemed to hold a hidden menace. The Ferris wheel, once a symbol of innocent fun, now loomed ominously in the dim light. Its creaking machinery and the occasional jolt as it moved seemed to mock any attempt at enjoyment. As he ascended in one of the carriages, the view from above revealed a carnival that appeared both beautiful and menacing, a disorienting mix of vibrant lights and darkened corners. The carousel was another attraction that piqued David's interest. Its horses, once bright and whimsical, now appeared faded and worn, their painted smiles twisted into grotesque expressions. The carousel's gentle, hypnotic music seemed to play with David's sense of reality, as if trying to lull him into a trance. He could not shake the feeling that the music was more than just a melody. It was a siren song drawing him deeper into the carnival's sinister web. David's investigation led him to the House of Mirrors, a maze of reflective glass that seemed to promise a journey through illusion and confusion. As he navigated through the maze, the mirrors distorted his reflection, creating an unsettling experience. His own image appeared fragmented and warped, reflecting not only his physical appearance, but also his mounting sense of disorientation. Each turn seemed to lead him deeper into an unsettling labyrinth, with his own distorted reflection mocking his every move. In the midst of his exploration, David stumbled upon a seemingly innocuous booth offering fortune-telling readings. The tent's interior was dimly lit, casting eerie shadows that danced across the walls. Inside, an old fortune teller awaited him, her gaze penetrating and unnervingly calm. Her predictions were vague and cryptic, hinting at the dangers lurking within the carnival. Despite the unsettling nature of her words, David couldn't help but feel that she was aware of more than she was letting on. The tent also contained a variety of strange and unsettling objects: ancient tarot cards, odd trinkets, and what appeared to be old, tattered journals. David's eyes were drawn to one particular journal, its cover adorned with an intricate design that seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy. As he opened the journal, he discovered pages filled with cryptic symbols and disturbing sketches. It was as if the journal itself was a record of the carnival's darker secrets, a tangible manifestation of its malevolent purpose. David's sense of foreboding grew as he realized that each attraction was more than just a ride or game. It was a carefully designed trap meant to ensnare those who ventured too far. The carnival's seemingly benign exterior masked a labyrinth of hidden dangers, each one more insidious than the last. It was becoming increasingly clear that the carnival was not just a place of entertainment, but a place where the line between reality and nightmare was perilously thin. As he continued his exploration, David's attempts to leave the carnival proved futile. The pathways that once seemed straightforward now twisted and turned unpredictably, as if the carnival itself was actively working against him. The exits he had previously noted were now obscured or blocked, leaving him trapped in a maze of his own making. The carnival's architecture seemed to shift and change, leading him in circles and deepening his sense of entrapment. The deeper David ventured, the more he began to notice peculiarities in the carnival's layout. Certain areas seemed to pulse with an unsettling energy, as if they were alive and aware of his presence. The walls of the tents appeared to close in on him, and the carnival's music, once lively and inviting, now took on a discordant and unsettling tone. It was as if the carnival was actively feeding off his fear, growing more malevolent with each passing moment. The carnival's sinister nature was further confirmed when David encountered a series of hidden passages and concealed rooms. These secret areas, though initially intriguing, revealed themselves to be nothing more than elaborate traps. The passages were lined with hidden mechanisms designed to disorient and trap unsuspecting visitors. Each step David took seemed to trigger a series of subtle but unnerving changes in the environment, further heightening his sense of dread. David's growing realization of the carnival's true nature was accompanied by an increasing sense of isolation. The carnival's few visitors appeared as if they were part of the scenery, motionless, their expressions blank and unseeing. It was as if they were trapped in their own private nightmares, unable to escape the carnival's grasp. David felt a chilling sense of disconnect, as if he were the only one fully aware of the horror surrounding him. The realization that the carnival was a trap, a nightmarish prison designed to ensnare its visitors, hit David with a profound sense of despair. The carnival's beauty and charm were mere illusions, hiding a web of traps and deceptions meant to ensnare the unwary. As he grappled with this grim reality, David's initial excitement gave way to a profound sense of dread. The carnival was not just a place of entertainment. It was a place of darkness and danger, a place where every attraction was a carefully laid trap. As the hours ticked by, David Mitchell found himself sinking deeper into the nightmarish grip of the Carnival of Nightmares. What had initially appeared as a series of unsettling attractions now revealed itself as a dark, malevolent force that seemed to manipulate reality itself. Each revelation about the carnival's nature was more disturbing than the last, and David's quest for answers only seemed to lead him further into the abyss. David's exploration took him to a hidden, derelict section of the carnival that seemed untouched by time. This area was tucked away behind a thick curtain of vines and overgrowth, a place that had clearly been left to rot. The decay was palpable, with crumbling structures and rusted rides that had long since stopped moving. This part of the carnival was a stark contrast to the otherwise meticulously maintained attractions. Here, the darkness was almost suffocating, and the air was thick with a sense of foreboding. As David ventured further into this grim section, he stumbled upon an old, abandoned theater. The theater's marquee, once bright and inviting, now hung in tatters, and the building's interior was covered in layers of dust. The stage was set with tattered curtains and decaying props, but it was the backstage area that caught David's attention. Here, he found a series of old documents and photographs scattered across a dusty table. The documents were unsettling, detailed accounts of previous visitors to the carnival, each entry filled with descriptions of strange occurrences and unexplainable phenomena. Many of the entries were written in a hurried, frantic scrawl, hinting at the desperation of those who had come before. The photographs, meanwhile, depicted scenes of people in distress, their faces twisted in terror. It was clear that the carnival had a history of trapping and tormenting its visitors, feeding off their fears and anguish. Among the scattered papers, David discovered an old journal, its cover embossed with strange symbols. The journal's pages were filled with detailed notes about the carnival's origins and purpose. According to the journal, the carnival was not merely a place of entertainment, but a vessel for an ancient curse. The curse had been placed upon the carnival by a vengeful sorcerer who sought to imprison lost souls in a never-ending nightmare. The carnival was a manifestation of this curse, designed to lure in the unsuspecting and trap them in a cycle of fear and despair. The journal described how each attraction was intricately linked to the carnival's malevolent force. The rides and games were not just physical structures but conduits for the curse's power. The carnival's lights, music, and even its very architecture were all part of a grand design to ensnare and torment visitors. Each attraction was a carefully crafted trap, tailored to exploit the deepest fears of those who encountered them. As David read through the journal, he realized that the carnival's proprietor, Victor, was not merely a host but a key player in the curse. Victor was described as the carnival's keeper, a figure bound to the curse's dark will. His role was to maintain the carnival and ensure that the cycle of torment continued unabated. Victor's apparent charm and hospitality were mere facades, masking a deeper, more sinister agenda. David's sense of dread intensified as he understood the full scope of the carnival's malevolence. The knowledge that the carnival was an elaborate trap, designed to ensnare and torment its visitors, weighed heavily on him. The realization that he was caught in this web of darkness, with no apparent way out, was almost too much to bear. In an effort to find a way to break free, David decided to confront Victor directly. He retraced his steps back to the main area of the carnival, his mind racing with the grim revelations he had uncovered. Victor was nowhere to be seen, and the carnival seemed eerily quiet, as if holding its breath in anticipation of the confrontation. David eventually found Victor in the central tent, surrounded by flickering candlelight and an assortment of bizarre artifacts. Victor greeted David with his usual unsettling grin, but there was a coldness in his eyes that spoke of hidden depths of malevolence. The conversation that followed was a chilling revelation of Victor's true nature and the extent of his involvement in the curse. Victor spoke of the carnival's origins with a twisted sense of pride. He described how the curse had been passed down through generations, each caretaker adding their own dark touches to the carnival's design. Victor's role was not just to maintain the carnival, but to perpetuate the curse, ensuring that the cycle of torment continued. His charm and hospitality were merely tools to lure in new victims, who would then be subjected to the carnival's malevolent machinations. David's confrontation with Victor was intense and fraught with tension. Victor's demeanor shifted from cordial to menacing, and the carnival's atmosphere seemed to grow darker with each passing moment. The reality of the carnival's curse was inescapable, and David realized that escaping the carnival was not as simple as merely walking away. The carnival's grip was all-encompassing, and breaking free would require more than just physical effort. It would require unraveling the very essence of the curse itself. As the confrontation came to a head, David was left with a chilling realization. The carnival was a living nightmare, a place where reality and illusion merged into a terrifying whole. The true horror of the Carnival of Nightmares was not just the traps and illusions, but the realization that escaping its grasp would require a battle against forces far beyond his understanding. As the night deepened, David Mitchell felt the carnival's malevolent energy reach its zenith. The realization of the curse's power had ignited a sense of desperation in him. Every step he took seemed to echo with the carnival's sinister intent, and the once enchanting attractions now appeared as looming, treacherous beacons of doom. The carnival was not just a place but a living, breathing entity, feeding on the fear and confusion of those who dared to enter. David's confrontation with Victor had unveiled the carnival's dark secret, but it had also heightened the danger. Victor, with his chilling smile and cryptic assurances, had made it clear that escape was not a simple matter of walking out the gates. The carnival's traps were not just physical. They were woven into the very fabric of reality, making the concept of escape a labyrinthine nightmare in itself. Determined to break the cycle, David knew he had to confront the heart of the carnival, the source of its power. The journal he had discovered hinted at an ancient ritual, a dark ceremony performed at the center of the carnival. According to the journal, This ritual was both the source of the curse and the key to breaking it. The central tent, with its flickering candlelight and ominous atmosphere, was where the carnival's dark magic was concentrated. David made his way to the central tent, navigating through the twisting paths and shifting illusions that seemed to conspire against him. The carnival's layout was a cruel joke, with paths that changed direction and attractions that seemed to come alive with malicious intent. Each step forward was a battle against the carnival's attempts to disorient and trap him. The central tent loomed ahead, its entrance shrouded in shadow and mystery. As David stepped inside, he was greeted by a sight that was both mesmerizing and horrifying. The tent's interior was a grand, Gothic space, adorned with dark, opulent decor and lit by a myriad of candles that cast eerie, flickering shadows on the walls. The air was thick with incense, and the atmosphere was charged with an otherworldly energy. In the center of the tent stood an altar, covered in strange symbols and arcane artifacts. Victor was already there, performing a ritualistic dance that seemed to channel the carnival's dark energy. His movements were both graceful and sinister, as if he were a conductor orchestrating a symphony of terror. The energy in the tent crackled with palpable intensity, and David could feel the weight of the carnival's curse pressing down on him. David's heart pounded as he approached the altar, his mind racing with the information from the journal. He knew that interrupting the ritual was his only chance to break the curse. Summoning all his courage, he confronted Victor, demanding that he stop the ceremony and release the carnival's captives. Victor's reaction was one of calm malevolence. He greeted David with a chilling smile, as if he had been expecting this confrontation all along. "You've come to end the carnival's legacy," Victor said, his voice smooth and resonant. "But the curse is not so easily undone. It is a part of the carnival, and the carnival is a part of the curse." As Victor spoke, the tense atmosphere grew, increasingly oppressive. The candles flickered wildly, casting ominous shadows that seemed to writhe and shift. The altar began to glow with a dark, pulsating light, and the symbols on its surface appeared to come alive, their meanings shifting and changing. David's attempt to stop the ritual was met with fierce resistance. The carnival's dark magic seemed to fight back, manifesting as swirling tendrils of shadow that reached out to ensnare him. Victor's dance became more frenzied, and the energy in the tent grew chaotic and volatile. The struggle to interrupt the ritual was not just physical, but metaphysical, as David grappled with the very essence of the curse itself. With a final, desperate effort, David seized a ceremonial dagger from the altar. The journal had mentioned the importance of this artifact in breaking the curse. Holding the dagger high, he invoked the words of an ancient incantation that he had gleaned from the journal. The words felt foreign on his tongue, but he spoke them with unwavering determination. As David chanted the incantation, the tense energy shifted. The dark, pulsating light of the altar began to wane, and the shadows that had once seemed alive now appeared to retreat. Victor's expression shifted from calm superiority to one of anger and desperation. The carnival's energy, once so oppressive, began to dissipate, and the sinister atmosphere of the tent was replaced by a tentative calm. Victor's control over the carnival seemed to falter. The dark magic that had been swirling around him dissipated, and the tent's oppressive atmosphere began to lift. With a final, defiant gesture, Victor vanished into a cloud of shadow, leaving David alone in the now quiet tent. As the energy of the carnival began to stabilize, David felt a profound sense of relief. The curse's grip on the carnival had loosened, and the oppressive atmosphere that had plagued him throughout the night was beginning to dissipate. The carnival's malevolent presence was receding, and the path to escape was finally becoming clear. David's victory was not without cost. The experience had left him deeply shaken, and the knowledge of the carnival's true nature weighed heavily on him. The carnival, though now free of its dark curse, was a place forever marked by its history of torment and despair. As David made his way toward the exit, he carried with him the haunting memories of the Carnival of Nightmares. As dawn broke over the horizon, David Mitchell emerged from the Carnival of Nightmares, the first rays of light casting a new, hopeful glow over the once malevolent grounds. The oppressive atmosphere that had gripped him throughout the night had lifted, leaving behind a carnival that, while still eerie, was now devoid of its dark, supernatural influence. The carnival's attractions, once terrifying traps, now appeared as mere remnants of a sinister past, stripped of their former power. David took a moment to survey the carnival from the outside. The once enchanting facade now looked forlorn and abandoned, a shadow of its former self. The vibrant lights and enticing music were gone, replaced by a somber silence that spoke of the night's events. The carnival's enchantment had been shattered, revealing the stark reality beneath, a place that had preyed on the fears and vulnerabilities of its visitors. Despite the horror and disorientation he had experienced, David felt a profound sense of accomplishment. The curse had been broken, and the carnival's malevolent grip had been lifted. The journal he had discovered, the confrontation with Victor, and the intense struggle to interrupt the ritual had all been part of a harrowing journey that had tested his courage and resolve. The darkness that had once defined the carnival was now a fading memory, replaced by the light of a new day. As David made his way away from the carnival grounds, he could not help but reflect on the events of the night. The experience had been a profound reminder of the thin line between reality and nightmare, and the ways in which fear and manipulation can intertwine. The carnival had been a reflection of the darkest aspects of the human psyche, a place where fears were magnified and vulnerabilities exploited. Yet, in confronting the carnival's malevolent force, David had also confronted his own fears and emerged stronger for it. The Carnival of Nightmares would undoubtedly remain a part of David's memories, a chilling reminder of the horrors that lurk in the shadows and the courage required to face them. As he left the carnival grounds behind, David felt a renewed sense of purpose. The experience had changed him, deepening his understanding of the power of fear and the importance of facing it head-on. To everyone who has watched this story unfold, thank you for joining me on this journey through the Carnival of Nightmares. Your support and interest in these tales of terror are what keep the stories alive. If you enjoyed this harrowing adventure and want to hear more spine-chilling tales, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Your subscription helps us continue to explore the dark and mysterious corners of the world. And don't forget to like this video if you found it as captivating and unsettling as I did. Your feedback is invaluable and helps us create even more engaging content. Until the next tale, stay curious, stay brave, and remember, the world is full of secrets, and sometimes the scariest ones are the ones that lurk just beyond the edge of our understanding. See you in the next adventure.